Chapter 1233. Even Griffin himself was dumbfounded. He'd offended the president with just one sentence? I'm not going to stay here forever, right? After breakfast, the four wandered around the HQ. It didn't look like a mysterious or evil place. They saw several children walking around and playing. Of course, there were also many animals here. Many of them were strangely big too. The wind was especially strong today, and the sky was getting darker. Dark clouds seemed to have gathered above the HQ. The low-pressure air was suffocating. Prague saw that Pain had returned with another demon. Subconsciously, she didn't think that this was an evil organization. Prague found West again. "Mr. West, when can we leave?" "Didn't I tell you?" West said. "You have to get the president's permission to leave tomorrow or never. But your president is sleeping by the lake right now. Is he always so free? What do you think he's going to do? But if he doesn't let us leave, he'll at least interrogate us, right? Do you know how he usually interrogates people?" "How?" "Do you see the meat grinder beside the HQ?" "Yes. Our guild leader usually puts people in there for interrogation." Prague's face paled instantly. Just then the HQ's alarm rang. Immediately after, Prague saw many members that he had seen before, and some that he had never seen before running out from all directions. What happened? Prague was alarmed. Little Jerlin rode White Ma and ran to West. "Uncle West, is there a bad guy? Jerlin wants to beat the bad guys with you." West was speechless as he watched Chen Zhao walk over from the lake. "Jerlin, you're still too young. When you grow up, you can beat the bad guys with us." "Jerlin isn't young anymore. She's already grown up. White Ma will help me beat the bad guys." Just then, Chen Zhao walked over and picked up Jerlin from White Ma. "Good girl, stay with Daddy." "President, how's the situation?" "The detectors around the area have detected that a large number of demons have touched the sensors. A large number of demons have also appeared on the surveillance screen," West said. "Oh, you guys go ahead," Chen Zhao said, yawning. "I'll take a nap. Last night, Jerlin woke up in the middle of the night, and I couldn't sleep well." Everyone else didn't mind. They hoped that they could handle such a situation by themselves. If Chen Zhao attacked, they would really have nothing to do with it. Prague, on the other hand, was speechless. This guild leader was too irresponsible. "Old man, what are you doing? Put the gun down. It's none of your business here. Just watch the door for me." Chen Zhao looked at Aduz, speechless. "Guild leader, I have experience as well." Okay. Stop causing trouble." Chen Zhao waved his hand and had Jalik take the modified gun from Aduz's hands. This old man was restless. With his body, he didn't want to break here. "Dad, let me go," Jerlin said expectantly. "I can protect Grandpa Aduz." "Jerlin, don't cause trouble." Fei Lai came out and stared at Jerlin sternly. On the other hand, Jerlin's face was filled with grievance and indignation. She looked at Chen Zhao pitifully, hoping that he would speak up for her. Unfortunately, Chen Zhao wished that Fei Lai would come out and restrain Jerlin. Just then, the dark clouds in the sky slowly spun like a vortex. All sorts of flashing demon eyes appeared in the forest around the headquarters. There was no need for surveillance and sensors now. Everyone could already see the demons approaching. Chen Zhao and Fei Lai carried Jerlin into the front hall. Prague was speechless. This guild leader was too irresponsible. By then the battle outside had already started. Cows held a remote control. Immediately, there were loud explosions in the forest. Hundreds of remote-controlled bombs were detonated. This was a battle of offense and defense. As the defending side, the supernatural organization naturally had to use the terrain to their advantage. The supernatural organization wasn't small, but it only had a headquarters that was less than 6 acres. Thus, remote-controlled mines were great defensive weapons. Gage had the hammer in her hand. She was more nervous than the others. For one, she was weak. For another, she didn't have much battle experience. Gage looked at Dongya Tianxi. "Japanese, aren't you nervous?" "I'm a samurai. Samurai are fearless." Dongya Tianxi just didn't look nervous. What a joke. What era was it now? There were no proper samurai. Amidst the explosion, 5 huge demons rushed out and attacked the headquarters. The 5 demons were all more than 5 meters long. They looked different, but they were all burning with flames. They were demons that liked to play with fire. The high temperature of the explosion didn't pose much threat to them. Plus, they were huge, so the shockwave from the explosion didn't have much effect on them. Giselle was surrounded by a dozen metal balls. Under her control, one of the metal balls shot toward a pig-headed demon first. The metal ball landed on the pig-headed demon's body. Immediately, it extended a hook and latched onto the demon's body. The next moment, the metal ball exploded. The liquid nitrogen inside also spread out, freezing the demon into a popsicle. Another metal ball shot out at high speed and pierced through the frozen demon. The demon's body disintegrated instantly, turning into pieces of frozen meat. Jalig and Pataloo immediately threw a new metal ball to Giselle. Amazing, Gage exclaimed. If it were her, she probably wouldn't be able to finish off one in 10 minutes. Wes pointed between his eyebrows. Slowfield. Instantly, the remaining 4 demons stopped moving. The members of the lightning squad held their guns and fired wildly at the 4 demons who had stopped in their tracks. The demons had thick skin and flesh, but they couldn't withstand the lightning team's storm-like attacks. In less than a minute, the demons were riddled with holes. Meanwhile, in the headquarters, Fei Lai looked at Chen Zhao speechlessly. Because Chen Zhao was really asleep, Jerlin and Evans were leaning against the window, watching the intense battle outside. Amazing, amazing. Sister Giselle is amazing. Uncle Klaus and the others are amazing too. Chapter 1234. The battle unfolded like a wildfire. For a moment, the demons couldn't enter the headquarters. The headquarters of the supernatural organization didn't have walls or walls. However, the members of the supernatural organization were all very powerful. Gaia, Norma, and Helis were the top fighters in the organization. The 3 of them hadn't made a move yet. The members of the organization could still hold on. It wasn't time for them to attack yet. Suddenly, Chen Zhao opened his eyes, stood up and looked outside. It was just noon, but all of Los Angeles was shrouded in dark clouds. It was like the end of the world. The headquarters of the association was as dark as 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning. Just then, a figure that wasn't too tall blended in among the ordinary demons and attacked the headquarters. No one noticed the figure yet. The figure went straight for Gage. Gage was swinging his hammer in a hand-to-hand fight with the demon. Suddenly, she felt a wave of chilliness attack her. Gage subconsciously swung the hammer in a circle. A black figure was hit by the hammer behind him. But when the hammer hit the black figure, it didn't defeat the figure. Instead, the hammer bounced back. Getchula felt as if his hammer was hitting a giant piece of rubber. He almost lost control of the hammer and staggered back a few steps. The black figure attacked Gage. It held a dagger with both hands and was about to slit Gage's throat. Suddenly, a hand appeared behind Gage and pulled him back, avoiding the fate of having his throat slit. Gage looked back. It was Helis' corpse demon. Gage looked at Helis and realized that she'd joined the battle too. The black figure wanted to continue attacking Gage, but the corpse demon blocked the attack. With a swing of its giant fist, the black figure was sent flying. But then, another dozen black figures entered the battle at the same time. Helis, those black figures shouldn't be ordinary demons, Gaia reminded. They should be high-level demons in the demon army. Yes, I know. Helis nodded. Mr. West, please cooperate with me. West immediately understood Helis' intention and cast the field of slowness. Wester was no longer the person in the past, a piece of trash who could cripple himself with a slow domain. His strength had soared, and his magic power had also improved greatly, especially since he knew how to quickly recover his magic power. More than 10 black shadows were engulfed by West's slow field. The 12 undead brothers and sisters of Helis attacked at the same time. Countless spells poured out. It covered an area of more than 20 meters. Suddenly, something in the sky approached the headquarters from a distance in the forest. The one in the lead was huge, and there were smaller ones behind him. Everyone finally saw that those things were a group of bird monsters. The largest bird monster had a wingspan of about 15 meters, while the other bird monsters were about 7 or 8 meters in size. Gaia finally picked up the greatsword. When she grasped the hilt, the greatsword burst into flames. Gaia's figure moved, leaping into the air. In an instant, the flaming sword slashed towards the largest bird monster. Hiss! The leader of the bird monsters was beheaded. Gaia used the falling corpse of the bird monster to jump more than 10 meters in the air and slashed again. Gaia was already very familiar with this kind of fighting style. Gazing at Gaia in the air, Jinkira's eyes were filled with admiration. When could he reach Gaia's level? However, the surrounding demons didn't give her too much time to be distracted. Jinkira could only take a look at the sky. Actually, Kelis and Norma weren't weaker than Gaia. However, Gaia's style was the most similar to Jinkira's, which was why Jinkira respected her the most. Prague, Griffin Felix, and Zovis were all shocked by the battle. They felt like they'd entered a mythical battlefield. Fei Lai looked at Chen Zhao. When Chen Zhao woke up, she thought he was going to attack. In the end, Chen Zhao just stood at the door and didn't do anything. At 2 or 3 in the afternoon, the battle suddenly stopped. The demons didn't attack anymore. Everyone was very tired now. Moreover, they all had some injuries on their bodies. Looking at his subordinates, Chen Zhao was exhausted. Wes was right. The association did need a doctor, he thought. Right now, he could only rely on Alice to heal everyone with her inexperienced healing spells. The evil spirits and slaves arranged food so that everyone could recover as much as possible. Everyone knew that the previous battle was just an appetizer. It was just a probing attack from the demon army. The demon army wanted to wear out the weaker demons and the combat power of the association members at the same time. Their goal had clearly been achieved. The association didn't lose anyone, but their combat power was obviously much lower. The truly powerful devils would wait until the sun went down before launching their attacks. President, the demons will definitely attack more fiercely at night. Then, Chen Zhao waved his hand. I know. Chen Zhao had been sleeping, but he sensed Kong Mosa's aura. He'd just approached the headquarters, so he woke up. But Kong Mosa didn't attack, so Chen Zhao didn't attack. Dad, when are we going to beat the bad guys? Jerlin looked at Chen Zhao expectantly. Chen Zhao rubbed Jerlin's hair. He hadn't taught her anything, but she was so violent. This wasn't good. How was she going to get married in the future? No, if she got married in the future, his heart would ache. It was better to let her be more violent. Jerlin slapped Chen Zhao's hand away angrily and stared at him with her little nose up. Chen Zhao walked out of the headquarters and stood in an empty space filled with demon corpses. Chen Zhao's lips curled into a smile. Just then Jinkira walked over. President, should we make a strategic retreat? The main force of the demons has yet to take action, but our combat strength has already decreased by more than half. At night, the strength of the demon army will become stronger, but we will become weaker. The current situation is really not suitable to continue fighting. Chen Zhao glanced at Jinkira. Where do you think we should retreat to? Or how should we retreat? Do you think the demon army that surrounded us will let us go? But staying here is just waiting for death. I think we should find a weak point and break out. Chapter 1235. Mr. West, I think we should retreat now. Seeing that Chen Zhao couldn't get through, Gage ran to find West. Retreat? Why? Don't you think we have no chance of winning? I don't think so, West said coolly. Before the president gives the order, neither I nor anyone else will retreat. You can leave, but after you leave, you won't be a member anymore. The union didn't say that leaving meant fighting to the death. No one had the time. Gage's face was filled with helplessness. All of them seemed to be very obedient to Chen Zhao's orders. As long as Chen Zhao didn't speak, no one would support her. She really didn't understand how that man had such prestige. From the first day she joined the union, Chen Zhao had been a bit off. Moreover, he'd been in the union the shortest. Usually, he wouldn't come to the union at all. Even during the big events of the society, Chen Zhao always hid in the back. For example, when Pamela turned into a banshee, Chen Zhao had been a spectator. He hadn't done anything at all. She really didn't understand how Chen Zhao could manage and command the members. Gage was a bit disappointed. She didn't want to die like this. But she didn't want to be a deserter either. She had the bloodline of a berserker, even though she'd been one for the past 20 years. She'd always lived as a normal person. She'd come into contact with people from the spiritual world, but not much. She had even less battle experience. She had the bloodline of a berserker and the pride of a berserker. The most shameful thing for a warrior wasn't to die in battle, but to run away. When everyone else was facing the enemy, she chose to abandon her comrades. Not only did she abandon her comrades, but she also abandoned her bloodline. A proud berserker wouldn't allow such a thing. Just then the sky started to darken. If there was still a sliver of light during the day when dark clouds covered the sky, it was truly dark now. There wasn't a sliver of light outside the headquarters. Just then, Chen Zhao walked out of the headquarters. When the others saw Chen Zhao, they all stood up. When Helis looked at Chen Zhao, her eyes were filled with respect. President. President. When Chen Zhao walked past everyone, they would greet him. Chen Zhao walked to the door of the headquarters and looked at the dark forest before him. Chen Zhao could sense that there were countless demons hiding in the darkness. It's about time. Master, time's up. Sibylla stood respectfully next to Kong Mosa. Kong Mosa stood where he was and did not move all day. He only opened his eyes when he launched the attack, and when he gave the order to stop the attack. Sibylla waited for Kong Mosa's reply, but after waiting for 5 minutes, there was no response. 10 minutes later, there was still no response. After waiting for 20 minutes, Kong Mosa finally opened his eyes. "All out attack, you and all of you attack," Kong Mosa said. Besides Sibylla, there were 3 other demons around Kong Mosa. Sibylla had accepted Kans Mosa's reward. She had now replaced Doan Tucker as the great commander of the demon army. At the same time, he found another powerful demon in the demon army to replace Bastille. The other 2 were the veteran commanders, Eden and Arrow. Arrow was the most unwilling of the 4 great commanders. If Kong Mosa had not been revived, she would not have obeyed the order to get involved in this mess. Kong Mosa also walked toward the headquarters. After receiving Kong Mosa's order, the other demons swept toward the headquarters like a wave. Everyone stared at Chen Zhao's back. Jenkira also stared at him. She did not understand what he was doing. Why was he standing there? Was he looking to die? If the demon army launched an all-out attack now, he would not even know how he died. Suddenly, there was a series of barks in the darkness. Then a group of demon dogs charged out of the darkness. These weren't demons. They were different from hellhounds. Hellhounds were man-made demons, while demon dogs were man-made undead. They were creatures summoned by necromancers. These demon dogs were extremely large and ferocious like tigers. They pounced at Chen Zhao. At the same time, a black shadow appeared beside Chen Zhao. Bastille had appeared. Jenkira's eyes widened. So big. Bastille was much bigger than these demon dogs. Was this his trump card? Gatella thought to himself. Bastille was indeed very strong. With a swipe of his claws, he killed all the demon dogs in a few moves. Just then, Sibylla's voice came from the darkness. "How sad, Bastille. You've become someone else's puppet." Bastille had no consciousness. He only stared emotionlessly at the demon army that had appeared in the darkness, and the 4 great commanders led by Sibylla. Sibylla could sense the dead members of the demon army. She could also sense that Bastille was dead. Now that he had reappeared in a different form, she could easily guess that Bastille had become someone else's puppet. The new commander, Beast King Rainster, roared at Bastille. Bastille roared at Rainster as well. Rainster was no smaller than Bastille, and his voice was not soft either. Rainster charged forward first, pouncing at Bastille. The 2 demons fought. It was hard to tell who would win in a short time. Rainster had originally been Bastille's subordinate. He was indeed weaker than Bastille. But ever since Kong Mosa had been revived, he'd received Kong Mosa's rewards. His power had increased greatly. Jenkira watched anxiously from the back. Chen Zhao's trump card was being held back by the other demons. Chen Zhao should be in danger. But Gaia and the others didn't seem to want to help at all. Had they disliked Chen Zhao and wanted to use this chance to get rid of him? Jenkira's thoughts kept running wild. "Sibylla, is this the guy who obstructed your plan many times?" Eden asked. "He's very strong," Sibylla said. She'd also received Kong Mosa's power. Her power was much greater than before. But now that she faced Chen Zhao again, she still didn't have any confidence. "Then let me see just how powerful he is." Eden's figure suddenly blurred, splitting into hundreds of doppelgangers. Everyone in the headquarters was shocked by Eden's cloning technique. There were too many of them. Was this guy Kong Mosa? Chapter 1236. But the next moment, Chen Zhao suddenly reached out and grabbed an Eden. Caught by Chen Zhao, Eden struggled with all his might. At the same time, the clones around him started attacking Chen Zhao crazily. However, these attacks were all fake. They were all illusions and didn't cause any actual damage. Everyone came to a sudden realization when they saw this result. It wasn't a real cloning technique, but an illusion. Like the doppelganger technique, Mo was able to continuously create doppelgangers. Or someone like Chen Zhao, who could create 12 clones at once. This was called the cloning technique. But illusions didn't have any attack power. How do you know I'm the real one? Eden roared as he struggled. Because you have bad breath, Chen Zhao said. Eden wasn't tall. Chen Zhao lifted him up with one arm, and his legs couldn't reach the ground. Everyone heard a crisp sound. Eden's neck was broken. Sibylla and Arrow's expressions didn't look good. Eden wasn't good at direct attacks. But he was still one of the 4 commanders. But now Chen Zhao had killed him so easily. They couldn't accept this result. Chen Zhao crooked his finger. His posture was full of provocation. Arrow, you go first, Sibylla said in a commanding tone. Why? I'm giving orders on behalf of my master. Do you have any objections? Arrow stared at Chen Zhao with a pale face. But just then Chen Zhao lifted his arm. The next moment, a beam of light shot out from Chen Zhao's palm. The beam of light was so fast that Arrow didn't even have time to react. The beam of light directly penetrated her body, and it continued to spread to the back. Demon cannon. Wherever it passed, all the demons were instantly annihilated. Sibylla's limbs were cold. This man was even scarier than before. Arrow didn't even have a chance to attack. She was also killed instantly. Gatella also opened her mouth wide. Disbelief was written all over her face. So powerful. This was the first time she'd seen Chen Zhao attack. Just then, Kong Mosa's voice sounded from behind Sibylla. Go find the second host. Leave him to me. Yes, master. Sibylla's figure flashed and disappeared. Kong Mosa slowly walked out of the forest and revealed his real body. He had a pair of horns on his head, and his chest was exposed. His skin was black, and he held a steel fork in his hand. His feet were like sheep's hooves. Human, you shouldn't have blocked my path. Who do you think you are? Kong Mosa was not tall, but the aura he exuded made everyone feel as if they had fallen into a nightmare. It was too terrifying. Could humans really become enemies with such a monster? Even Blackies, who worshipped Chen Zhao a lot, had some doubts. This demon was much stronger than his mother. Kong Mosa threw his trident at Chen Zhao with terrifying power. It was as if hundreds of demons were attacking Chen Zhao at the same time. Bang! The moment Chen Zhao touched the pitchfork, he released all his power. A terrifying shockwave spread out from Chen Zhao. All the association members standing at the back were sent flying. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao in disbelief. They hadn't expected Kong Mosa to be so powerful. Even though they were dozens of meters away, they could still feel the terrifying shockwave. How could Chen Zhao, who was the first to bear the brunt, escape? The smoke gradually dissipated. Chen Zhao stood where he was without a single injury. Everyone was shocked again. They hadn't expected Chen Zhao to receive the attack unscathed from such a terrifying shockwave. Chen Zhao grabbed the pitchfork, but it started trembling, as if it wanted to break free from Chen Zhao's grasp. Bastard, you don't want to be controlled by me? In that case, don't even think about getting it. Chen Zhao immediately controlled the mouth of gluttony and bit down on the pitchfork. The pitchfork was clearly not an ordinary weapon. The mouth of gluttony actually couldn't bite it into pieces immediately. The pitchfork seemed to have its own consciousness. Kong Mosa wouldn't give Chen Zhao time to destroy his weapon either. 2 destructive beams shot out from Kong Mosa's demon horns. Chen Zhao moved and dodged Kong Mosa's attack. Kong Mosa took the chance to walk forward and snatched the pitchfork from Chen Zhao's hand. Everyone watched the battle between Chen Zhao and Kong Mosa. They couldn't interfere at all. It wasn't just them. Even Kong Mosa's demon army couldn't get close to the center of the battlefield. Chen Zhao and Kong Mosa were both too powerful. Everyone else was fundamentally different from them. Although the battle between the two of them was not earth-shattering, if they were to continue fighting, the headquarters might really be destroyed by them. Disbelief was written all over Gage's face. Was this Chen Zhao's true strength? The more Kong Mosa fought, the more shocked he became. Because Chen Zhao really scared him. This human hadn't used his full strength yet. He couldn't continue like this. He had to end the battle as soon as possible. Kong Mosa was one of them, and knew his own strength. Chen Zhao's various performances had already shown that Chen Zhao was on the same level as him. Kong Mosa's demon territory wasn't obtained through proper means. It was an opportunistic method. To put it bluntly, it was using external forces to temporarily obtain this kind of power. But Chen Zhao had truly reached this level. If they continued fighting, he would enter a weakened period prematurely. If he couldn't defeat Chen Zhao now, when he entered a weakened period, his chances of winning would be even lower. Attack! Attack! Kong Mosa ordered his demon army to attack. A smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. Suddenly he pushed Kong Mosa away. Kans Mosa suddenly had a bad feeling. Return to 1. Chen Zhao's aura suddenly exploded. At the same time, he took out a remote control. This remote control was Chen Zhao's true trump card. Zhaolig saw the remote control in Chen Zhao's hand, and recognized it as the one he and Chen Zhao had made after working for an entire night. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't want him to make the remote control, but the things it controlled. In fact, they were just jars, and they were all aluminum jars. The remote control could open the aluminum jars directly. Zhaolig didn't know what the aluminum jars were for. The moment Chen Zhao pressed the remote control, a holy aura emanated from the forest. Chen Zhao had buried thousands of angelic crystals in the forest. If it was just 1 or 2 angelic crystals, it might not affect the demon army. But the holy power produced by thousands of angelic crystals would cause fatal damage to the demon army. Chapter 1237. Retreat! Retreat! Kong Mosa didn't know what Chen Zhao had done, but he could feel the holy power pervading the area within several kilometers of the supernatural organization. This holy power didn't just affect the demon army. Even Agar's, one of the 72 demon gods, was affected. Even Chen Zhao's pure-blooded demon subordinates were affected. Kong Mosa was terrified. He hadn't expected Chen Zhao to have such a weapon. But why didn't Chen Zhao use it earlier? Why did he only use it now? This was something he didn't understand. Actually, thousands of angelic crystals seemed like a lot. But when they were scattered around the headquarters, they realized that there weren't that many. So, Chen Zhao could only use the angelic crystals to draw a line around the headquarters. Of course, this line wasn't just a line of defense. It was also a line of obstruction. Chen Zhao's ultimate goal was to destroy the demon army, not to play with them. Let them think that the supernatural organization could come and go as they pleased. They could come and go as they pleased. So, Chen Zhao had to wait until the entire demon army stepped into the line before opening the aluminum cans. Suddenly, Chen Zhao pounced at Kong Mosa. Kong Mosa was already somewhat suppressed at the moment. But Chen Zhao didn't weaken. Instead, he became stronger. He was so strong that Kong Mosa couldn't block it. He couldn't even block it once. This was the true power of a demon. Chen Zhao pressed Kong Mosa to the ground and dragged him a dozen meters. Kans Mosa tried to resist, but Chen Zhao was too strong. He couldn't move Chen Zhao at all. Do you know how big the difference between us is? Theoretically, Kong Mosa and Chen Zhao were on the same level. But there was still a gap between them that Kong Mosa couldn't close no matter how hard he tried. That was a spell or magic that belonged solely to him. Chen Zhao had returned to 1. He'd created it himself. Because Chen Zhao had entered a state of emptiness, he could comprehend it himself and create his own spell. But Kong Mosa didn't. He didn't have his own magic. The principle of 10,000 techniques returned to 1 could be said to be simple, but it could also be said to be difficult. But no one else could copy it. Kong Mosa also had a demon, but he didn't have his own comprehension. Everyone in the association had looks of disbelief on their faces. They had thought that there would be an even more intense battle between Chen Zhao and Kong Mosa. However, the situation seemed to have changed in an instant. Just a moment ago, they were evenly matched. The next moment, Chen Zhao crushed Kong Mosa with absolute power. Chen Zhao broke Kong Mosa's limbs and lifted him up. Chen Zhao wanted to devour Kong Mosa's demon territory. Red, gold, and black magic arrays appeared around Chen Zhao. At the same time, they enveloped Kong Mosa. What are you going to do? Kong Mosa was horrified to find that his strength was constantly dropping. No, it wasn't his original power. It was his demonic domain that was disappearing. You're a guest. It's not good if you don't leave something as a gift, right? Chen Zhao smiled faintly. Let me go, you devil. Let me go. Everyone was speechless. They wondered what it would feel like to be called a demon by a demon. However, Chen Zhao's previous actions could indeed be called a demon. Just then, Rupert suddenly let out a cry of surprise. Everyone turned around and saw Sibylla appear behind Rupert. At the same time, she pressed her hand against Rupert's neck. Let go of my master. Sibylla had wanted to attack when she was more confident. But she didn't expect Chen Zhao to be so terrifying. He'd actually suppress Kong Mosa to this extent. If she didn't attack now, Kong Mosa might very well lose his life. Sibylla, good job. Kong Mosa's spirit was lifted, and he shouted happily, let me go at once, or that little girl will die. Holding Kong Mosa, a smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. You don't really think this plan will work, do you? Sibylla cursed under her breath. If she were in Rupert's shoes, she would definitely be on her guard against her too. Rupert turned her head with a smile. Indeed, before the battle, Chen Zhao had made preparations for her. If Chen Zhao lost, she would be the last chance to turn the tables. Rupert still had a perfect angelic crystal on her. Before, it had been wrapped in tin foil. After Sibylla ambushed her, she secretly opened the tin foil. Instantly, a holy aura exploded from Rupert's body. Sibylla had just been transformed by Kong Mosa. Now, she was a pure demon like the other members of the demon army. When she came into contact with the holy aura, it was like the ice in the North Pole being baked by the sun in the Sahara Desert. Sibylla didn't even have the ability to use a teleportation spell to escape. If it was Kong Mosa, he could barely escape from Rupert. But Sibylla couldn't do it at all. She wasn't even an intermediate demon. Smoke rose from her skin. Rupert turned around and kicked Sibylla to the ground, holding the perfect angelic crystal in her hand. Go away, go away. Rupert, I was wrong. For the sake of me and your teacher, please let me go. Miss Sibylla, this isn't the first time you've lied to me. Smiling, Rupert slowly approached Sibylla with the perfect angelic crystal. To Sibylla, this was a source of radiation. Also, do you think I have the right to decide your fate? I can teach you how to control the soul in your body. Rupert had to admit that Sibylla's suggestion was very tempting. But being tempted was one thing. More importantly, Chen Zhao didn't care whether he was tempted or not. Rupert didn't think that she could go against Chen Zhao, just because she controlled 1/3 of Kong Mosa's soul. This time, she'd truly witnessed Chen Zhao's scariest side. Legendary demons weren't as scary as Chen Zhao. After Kong Mosa's demon territory was taken away, Chen Zhao could feel that he was becoming stronger. The demon territory and his small world supported each other. But while Kong Mosa's demon territory belonged to him, there was a condition for using it. That was, he needed the demon army. If he killed them all, then Kong Mosa's demon territory would also be destroyed. Chapter 1238. These demons were all controlled by the demonic territory. They couldn't resist Chen Zhao's orders. Plus, their master was still in Chen Zhao's hands. But it seemed that Kong Mosa was in a terrible state. He was unbelievably weak. Those who are willing to be sealed, stand on the left, Chen Zhao said. Those who don't can die. All the demons looked at each other. Whether it was being sealed or dying, neither was a good choice. Moreover, most of them were arrogant and unruly. They even felt that if they fought head-on, they might have a chance of winning. Gaia and the others were also prepared. As soon as Chen Zhao gave the order, they would start a massacre. But there were only a few dozen demons who chose to continue. The others all chose to retreat and stood on the right. Chen Zhao raised his right arm. Since the demons had chosen to fight, they were naturally quite strong. Demon cannon. A chasm was left in the empty space in front of the headquarters. There was nothing but some debris in the chasm. Everyone and all the demons stared at Chen Zhao. The place was silent. The demons who had chosen to be sealed all broke out in a cold sweat. Their faces were drained of blood from fear. Akira was frightened too. At this moment, she finally understood why Chen Zhao had such high prestige in the supernatural organization. Why no one had wavered before Chen Zhao gave the order. Even though Gaia and the others had fought so fiercely during the day, even though their stamina and magic power had been depleted by more than half, they still didn't retreat. This was because Chen Zhao hadn't really attacked yet. As long as Chen Zhao was here, the outcome was still unknown. Chen Zhao secretly felt that it was a pity. He had killed so many powerful demons again. The demonic territory he'd taken from Kong Mosa was much weaker now. But to Chen Zhao, the demonic territory wasn't very useful to him. Moreover, he couldn't bring a large group of demons everywhere. In the end, the demon army would at most stay in the headquarters. If enemies attacked the organization again, he would have more choices. President, it won't be easy to seal so many demons, West said, walking up. Will be a disaster if we let them out, Chen Zhao said. Then kill them all. The demons thought that they had escaped, but when they heard Chen Zhao's words, they peed their pants in fear. President, how about this? Let's manage them the same way as Lady Pamela's evil spirit group. We'll just seal some of the troublemakers, and the more docile demons will temporarily stay in the headquarters and work for us. What was West's greatest wish? The powerful supernatural organization. Now there was such an opportunity in front of him. There were so many demons. If they could tame them all, it would be a huge boost for the supernatural organization. Write me a report on how to deal with them, Chen Zhao said. Zhilin had already leaped to his feet. Dad, you're the best. Chen Zhao was still carrying Kong Mosa, so it was really inconvenient for him to carry Zhilin. Gaia rushed up and took little Zhilin away. Chen Zhao squeezed hard and strangled Kong Mosa to death. In any case, there was no point in keeping this fellow. Chen Zhao would never let an enemy live, especially one that was useless to him. However, things were not over yet. Everyone would be busy tonight. Take Halle's for example. After the battle, Halle's wandered among the demon corpses. Others didn't want to go near the corpses, but it was a rare treasure for Halle's. She wanted to find suitable corpses to use as a medium for her necromancy. Another example would be Kira and Dongya Tianxi. Both of them were collecting demon blood, skin, and bones. These were all good forging materials or magic materials. Jalig and Padalu went to collect the angelic crystals around them. Angelic crystals were indeed good for defense against demons, but they were also a huge threat to the evil spirit group. Chen Zhao didn't let Pamela and the other evil spirits participate in the battle tonight, because he wanted to use the angelic crystals. Also, if the association wanted to control these demons in the future, they couldn't let the angelic crystals continue to be scattered outside. Plus, Agar's was a demon too. She couldn't stand the dense holy power covering the ground. Of course, to the people of the association, everything was fine now that the battle was over. Why haven't you scrammed yet? Chen Zhao looked at the cowering Prague and the others. Prague and the others were speechless. Without your permission, would we dare to leave? You're a demon king. Lit Grove walked up and threatened them. Oh, if you dare to tell anyone about my teacher and what happened here, I promise you and your families won't live for more than 3 days. The four of them turned pale with fright. Chen Zhao saw that Lit Grove was holding a very thick fang. It was still stained with blood. Why are you holding this fang? Teacher, this is the fang of the first demon I killed. It's my trophy. Lit Grove was very excited and proud. He planned to make the fang into a pendant. When he was old in the future, he would give this pendant to his grandson and tell him about his heroic deeds in the past. Oh, you can kill a demon too? Chen Zhao didn't expect this. Lit Grove's awakened ability was to see through weaknesses, but his body was only slightly stronger than a normal person's. He didn't expect that he could actually kill a demon. Teacher, I've entered the Tower of Trials more than 20 times, Lit Grove said. Ritter Grove felt that he had to show off his abilities to Chen Zhao. Of course, he wasn't so naive to think that he could go against Chen Zhao. He just wanted to prove that he wasn't as useless as Chen Zhao thought. Today was too exciting for him. Lit Grove liked this kind of atmosphere. He hoped that next time something like this happened, Chen Zhao would bring him along. Oh, did you ask for leave today? Fine, I was just joking with you. Since you did so well today, you can rest for a few days. Then, Chen Zhao ignored everyone else and went to play with Zhilin. It wasn't too late yet, but Zhilin didn't want to sleep yet. Chapter 1239. Mr. West, why do you have to do this? Hellies looked at West, who was hung upside down in front of the headquarters. Last night, West had caused a huge death. He'd knocked on Chen Zhao's door in the middle of the night. Then, the people who hadn't slept and were still working heard Jerlin's cries from Chen Zhao's room. Then, they saw Chen Zhao angrily drag West and hang him at the door. West had begged many people, but no one helped him. It was West's fault for causing trouble. They didn't want to get on Chen Zhao's bad side. In the morning, Chen Zhao went to West with a dark expression. Why did you find me last night? President, put me down first. I don't dare to do it again. After West was put on the ground, he couldn't even stand up. His feet were already numb. Tell me what's the matter? President, I've thought of a solution. Take a look. Chen Zhao took West's report. West had thought about it for an entire night. It was a proposal to deal with the demons. First of all, those who committed crimes would be directly sealed. There was nothing much to say about this. Leaving them in the headquarters would only bring trouble. Secondly, some demons with better moral conduct and obedience would stay in the headquarters for the time being. They'd work for them for a few years, and then decide whether to keep them or not. West had also made a very detailed plan. In fact, some of these demons had already integrated into human society. But since they'd participated in the attack on the supernatural organization, they couldn't just say that they weren't willing to be released, right? That way, there would definitely be more enemies attacking in the future. The organization had to maintain enough deterrence. Moreover, they needed some manpower too. For example, some construction projects. These demons were good manpower. As long as Chen Zhao could suppress them, West didn't think there was anything wrong with using these demons as laborers. Want to reject? Sure, go talk to Chen Zhao. See if Chen Zhao would agree. Just then Klaus ran over. Judging from his face, he hadn't slept at all. President. Klaus went straight to the point. President, we want a few demons. You? Demons? Chen Zhao looked at Klaus and the others. What do you want? Be our helpers and mounts. We chose a few demons and made contact with them. They were willing to obey us, Klaus said. Then we asked Jalig and Padalu to help us design a collar that can be used to restrain demons. The condition is 10 years. Chen Zhao thought for a moment. Okay, go talk to them yourselves. In fact, there weren't many demons that were suitable to be Klaus's mounts. This was because most of these demons were in the form of beasts or birds, and were considered low-level demons. At the start of the war, most of them had been killed by the people of the association. There weren't many left. It was probably only enough to arm Klaus's lightning squad. It was obviously impossible to equip every member of the association with a demonic mount. Of course, if they were willing to sit on the shoulders or head of the humanoid devil, that would be a different story. The arrival of these demons did not change anything for the association. At least everything was normal. However, before these demons were completely organized and managed, Chen Zhao still had to stay here. The evil demon army had indeed brought some combat power to the association. However, it was a defensive type of combat power. In other words, when enemies of the same kind attacked, they could be useful. But bring them out? It was impossible. A group of demons could cause chaos in Los Angeles just by going out for a stroll. Unless they could transform into a human like Thomas Bailey. But after Kong Mosa's resurrection, they had lost the ability to transform. Kong Mosa's resurrection had not only increased their combat power, but the demonic power had also distorted them. However, the demonic power that Kong Mosa had given them would gradually fade. Because Kong Mosa was already dead. Therefore, they might be able to regain their past abilities in a few years or decades. If demons wanted to hide in human society, the first thing they had to do was to transform into humans. When they were first released from the seal, it had taken them a long time to integrate into human society. Now they had to go through this process again. Of course, a large portion of them could not transform into humans in the first place. For example, those in the form of beasts. They wandered in the wild all year round with wild beasts. Some were not affected by the demonic power, and could still transform into humans freely. These were the weaker ones, so Kong Mosa's second demonic power contamination did not affect them too much. Fei Lai and Zhurlin returned to Mirror Lake to live. However, Chen Zhao had another idea. He could use Kong Mosa's demonic domain to create another exclusive spell. At the moment, Chen Zhao's exclusive spells were 10,000 spells for 1 demon god cannon and strip that the handsome guy had created for him. Both the 10,000 spells returned to 1 and the demon god cannon had extremely strong offensive capabilities, which significantly increased one's combat power. Strip, on the other hand, was more special. It could only be used against special enemies and under special circumstances. The increase in combat power was not obvious. Kong Mosa had not reached the state of emptiness, so even though he had mastered the demonic domain, he could not comprehend it. However, Chen Zhao had mastered it, so there was no such thing as not being able to create exclusive spells. Chen Zhao named Kong Mosa's demonic domain Darkness Descent. Basically, it caused dark clouds to gather and created low-pressure air. The effect was the same as Chen Zhao's small world. It increased one's mana source and sped up mana recovery. The only difference was that Chen Zhao's small world absorbed spiritual energy, while Darkness Descent absorbed the demonic power of the demon army. In terms of visual perception, Darkness Descent was more visually impactful. In reality, it was not very effective. Chen Zhao lifted his hand and pointed at the sky. Darkness Descent started gathering. Dark clouds filled the sky above the headquarters. However, because the demon army had decreased in numbers, the range of Darkness Descent was very limited. With the headquarters as the center, it could cover a radius of 12 square kilometers. It could barely cover the entire headquarters. The Eye of the Thunder on Chen Zhao's arm turned electricity into ions and released them into the air. Chen Zhao discovered that as the ions dispersed, they were completely restricted within the range of Darkness Descent due to the low-pressure air. However, these ions also carried Chen Zhao's magic power, allowing him to clearly grasp every inch of the entire headquarters and every area. Chapter 1240. The people in the association realized that the sky was filled with dark clouds. They all thought that something had happened again. But since Chen Zhao was in the association, they had nothing to fear. Soon, they realized that the dark clouds seemed to be controlled by Chen Zhao. A bolt of lightning struck before Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao looked around, and a smile appeared on his face. Boom! A bolt of lightning struck West's head. Ah! President, I'm being attacked. I'm being attacked. Chen Zhao could accurately grasp the accuracy and power of the attack. Within the association, he could strike whoever he wanted. Chen Zhao released even more ions. They scattered in the air. Everyone's hair stood on end. Just then, Chen Zhao's body floated up slightly. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled in the sky. A huge pillar of lightning struck down. Of course, this electric current wasn't attacking anyone. Instead, it landed on a shelf nearby. The shelf shattered with a loud bang. This bolt of lightning was already very fatal. Chen Zhao started to control the lightning densely and hit the lake's surface continuously. It was as if there were countless grenades hidden in the lake. They kept exploding and splashing everywhere. At the same time, the fish in the lake were hit until their bellies turned white. Chen Zhao didn't stop until the lightning lasted for more than 10 minutes. It was another exclusive spell. But this spell had a weakness. It wasn't very effective against a single target. If it was a normal person, it could indeed cause a large area of damage. But if it was an enemy at Kong Mosa's level, then it would be difficult for the spell to cause fatal damage. Of course, this was a weakness. But the advantage was also very obvious. It covered a large area and consumed very little energy. Chen Zhao could last for a few hours and continuously strike the area with lightning. It wouldn't be a problem even if he plowed the entire area of the headquarters. If there was another large-scale attack like the demon army, Chen Zhao wouldn't have to do so much preparation. As long as this place was struck by lightning for a few hours, everything here would definitely be reduced to ashes. Another advantage was the accuracy of the hit rate, and the control of the power could be done at will. Moreover, after releasing the ions, Chen Zhao could accurately sense the movements of all living beings in the area around the headquarters. The members of the association could also tell that Chen Zhao was experimenting with a new spell. As for the strike on West, it was probably intentional. They also knew that Chen Zhao had very powerful lightning spells. But this time, the magic looked very shocking. Guild leader, is this your new spell? Harold stepped forward and asked. Yes, it's a new spell specially developed for the defense of the headquarters. West rubbed his head and walked over with a sad face. Guild leader, can you not make such a joke next time? I'm still trying. I can't control it well. West wouldn't believe that. Judging from Chen Zhao's expression, he'd clearly done it on purpose. President, what is this spell called? Lightning Storm, Chen Zhao said casually. To be honest, neither the Demon God Cannon nor the 10,000 techniques returned to one were as useful as the Lightning Tempest. 10,000 spells returned to one was an absolute single-target spell. The Demon God Cannon was a small area spell. In terms of single-target attacks, it could not compare to 10,000 spells returned to one. Lightning Storm, on the other hand, was a group spell. It was Chen Zhao's favorite type of spell. Unfortunately, this spell could only be used in the headquarters of the association. He wouldn't be able to use it outside of here. Everything was based on Kong Mosa's demonic domain, Darkness Descends. Without Darkness Descends, Chen Zhao couldn't use Lightning Storm. Speaking of which, if Kong Mosa had this spell that day, even if Chen Zhao could win, the headquarters would suffer heavy casualties. Fortunately, Kong Mosa was just a dabbler. However, Chen Zhao was curious about how Kong Mosa had turned humans into demons. Chen Zhao had potions that could turn humans into demons, but they were mixed-blood demons. They wouldn't be like Kong Mosa and turn humans into complete demons. If Kong Mosa had enough time, he could create even more demon armies. Chen Zhao probably wouldn't be able to deal with it as easily as that day. However, he still had to find Kong Mosa's body. Who knew if something would happen to Kong Mosa's body if it was left outside? After this battle, Chen Zhao also realized that the association needed a healer. When the four from Prague returned to school, they heard a piece of news. Their classmate Jill had died in a car accident. They immediately thought that this must be the result of the supernatural organization's arrangements. They were sad for Jill's death. However, this also saved them a lot of trouble. After all, if they had to explain it, they wouldn't know how to answer the question about Jill's death. The experience of these 2 days and 2 nights was also extraordinary for them. From their worldview to their outlook on life, they had undergone major changes. In the past, the third and fourth types of contact they'd been pursuing were just interests to them. But suddenly, they realized that what they'd been pursuing actually existed. Moreover, the truth was crueler than they'd guessed. Jill's death and the battle a few days ago were enough to explain everything. Of course, the one who shocked them the most was the Chinese. That scary Chinese. Honey, I was really worried when you were gone for 2 days. Where did you go? I couldn't get through to you. Prague's smile was slightly forced. He looked at his boyfriend Peter. Nothing, just a club activity. Your paranormal society again. Peter had never liked Prague going to the paranormal society. Yes. Your society's Somans has always liked you. He's been pursuing you. There's nothing like that. We're just classmates with common interests. Prague explained. If you mention this again, then let's break up. Fine, I was wrong, Prague. I won't mention it anymore, Peter said quickly. Come with me to the sea in a few days. Sea? Yeah, my friend has a marine exploration team. They're going to explore the Pacific Ocean. Don't you like these weird things? Maybe you'll encounter something mysterious. Exploration team? Are you sure we can join the exploration team? No problem. I talked to my friend. 2 spots is not a problem. Chapter 1241. On the second day back, Chen Zhao went to hell. This time, it was the handsome guy who summoned him. The magic tide was about to arrive. Of course, it was Chen Zhao's suggestion. It was easy for the handsome guy to summon Chen Zhao. For example, Beelzebub Sophie had to summon Chen Zhao with a magic seal and a token from Chen Zhao. The handsome guy took the token and dragged Chen Zhao to hell. The handsome guy summoned Chen Zhao twice, both times in different places. Handsome, don't you have your own territory? Right now, Chen Zhao and the handsome guy were sitting in a Porsche 918 sports car. Chen Zhao had specially brought this car to hell. However, the 2 sports cars were hovering in the air. The entire hell is mine. Why do I need a territory? It's different. I mean, like a palace. Yes, but one of my clones is sleeping in the palace. Do you have a lot of clones? No, I only have that one. It's in Pantmaninen. Chen Zhao had heard of Pantmaninen. According to legends, it was the center of hell, and also Satan's palace. It was also built by Mammon, the king of greed. Pantmaninen also stored all the wealth Mammon had accumulated for Satan. Why do you have to leave a clone there? Because there are always ignorant people who try to covet my treasures. Don't you have subordinates watching for you? Yes, but even my subordinates can't resist my treasures, so I chased all of them out of Pantmaninen. Chen Zhao muttered inwardly. The handsome guy's treasures probably weren't ordinary ones. If you want to go, I can take you there. Forget it. I'm a very vulgar person. I never challenge my desires. Chen Zhao had always been a very worldly person. If there was some treasure that could make demons lose their minds, then he probably wouldn't be able to control himself. Just then, a blue curtain of light extended toward them from the end of the sky. The blue light was dazzling, but Chen Zhao could feel its vastness and surging. Chen Zhao saw a demon fly up from below. This demon was very powerful. At least, he was more powerful than Chen Zhao. Much more powerful. When he saw Chen Zhao and the handsome young man, he immediately attacked. The handsome young man simply turned his head and glanced at the devil. The demon screamed and fell from the sky. At this time, more demons rose from the forest below. Some demons were hostile to the flying Porsches. However, no demons attacked the Porsche again. After all, they had seen it in the forest. One of their strongest existences was struck down by the owner of this strange thing. There were more demons, but their attention wasn't on Chen Zhao and the handsome guy. They were also flying forward, flying towards the blue screen of light. What is this? Magic tide. The handsome boy had one hand on the door and the other on the steering wheel. At this time, the blue curtain of light had already spread over. Chen Zhao immediately felt the dense spiritual qi of heaven and earth fill his small world. As the blue curtain of light spread, more and more evil demons rose into the air. Although there were occasional fights, most of the demons were moving in the opposite direction of the blue curtain of light. In the same direction as the sports car, they were also heading in the direction of the blue curtain of light. A large number of demons on the ground were also moving in that direction. Most of the demons on the ground were weaker or couldn't fly. Where are we going? The closer the magic tide is to the source, the denser the elements are. Can't you take me to the source directly? Chen Zhao asked. Or can't you even get close to the source? I can go, but you can't. Just then, Chen Zhao realized that some demons were already falling behind. Like a boat sailing against the current, they were instantly swept away by the rich spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Chen Zhao could already feel the pressure. If he flew on his own, he would probably be sent flying before long. But now the handsome guy was driving him. He didn't need to think about how far he could go. He only needed to think about how much spiritual qi he could withstand. This was similar to the process of diving into deep water, similar to water pressure. But so far, he could still withstand the pressure of the spiritual qi rather easily. Every 13 years, the magic tide sweeps through the entire hell. Every demon has to go against the flow of the magic source. Isn't it the most convenient for demons who live near the magic source? The handsome young man shook his head. Every mana tide, the location of the mana source is different, and the location of the mana source is often littered with corpses. This is because the mana source is a place with the densest elemental energy. Even great lords can't withstand it, so the number of casualties is very high. In hell, it's not uncommon to see countries destroyed because of the mana source. Destroyed countries? Chen Zhao exclaimed. Is there no way to prevent it? Yes, I can. I know where the magic source is, but why should I save them? Fine. He couldn't use the moral standards of the world to ask a demon king. What's the reason for the magic tide? Chen Zhao wasn't a researcher, but he was still quite interested in this. The environment, the handsome guy said. Don't landslides, tsunamis, and volcanic eruptions happen in the human world too? It's the same for the magic tide. It's a 13-year cycle. The magic tide should be a good thing for most demons, unless the magic source appears next to you. It's not entirely a good thing. Some old demons will die suddenly because of it. Chen Zhao more or less understood why the handsome guy had summoned him to hell. When the spiritual qi of heaven and earth reached a certain level, the spiritual qi of heaven and earth would constantly pour into the body like a force-fed duck. The spiritual qi didn't turn into magic directly. Instead, it stayed in the body temporarily. Chen Zhao didn't need to absorb it at all. Techniques or books were useless now. He just gave up resisting and converted it. Your magic isn't the main thing. I can take you deeper and let your body receive the impact of the elements directly. As long as I don't die, it's up to you. The deeper he went, the stronger the pressure was. Even if Chen Zhao went thousands of meters under the sea, he wouldn't feel this much pressure. Chen Zhao could feel his bones changing shape. Even his skin had changed shape. Chapter 1242. Yes, Chen Zhao was adapting to the feeling brought by the pressure. Chen Zhao's bones, skin, and flesh were all changing rapidly. Ever since Chen Zhao absorbed the golden key, he had been changing constantly. Not on the outside, but on the inside. Sometimes, Chen Zhao even doubted if he was still human inside. Of course, Chen Zhao did a checkup too. The results from the blood sample and DNA analysis were satisfactory. At least Chen Zhao still retained his human characteristics. Many demons had the ability to quickly adapt to the environment. However, this ability of a demon was mostly obtained through changing their form. A thought suddenly popped up in Chen Zhao's mind. It was a completely groundless thought. It was like something he should have known. The ability to adjust the strength of the pressure. He could fill his skin with magic and obtain stronger resistance to pressure. Chen Zhao thought of a possibility. His body's ability to adapt to pressure had evolved to the extreme. Therefore, he could no longer evolve through transformation. So he changed to another method. That was to provide a better solution through knowledge. Every species had an upper limit to their abilities, also known as the ceiling. For example, the world records of athletes were actually the ceiling. Under normal circumstances, humans couldn't compete with carnivorous animals in speed, strength, or reaction time. But in some situations, humans could do it. It was through skills. Actually, using tools and inventing machines were also a type of skill. Of course, Chen Zhao didn't walk the path of technology. This knowledge seemed to be innate. Chen Zhao completely understood and grasped this knowledge. Chen Zhao tried to send magic into his skin. This was very complicated, but Chen Zhao could do it easily, as if he had muscle memory. Can you continue? The handsome guy asked. Yes, just a bit more. Chen Zhao felt that he still had plenty of magic. This skin resistance skill didn't seem to have reached its limit. The closer he got to the source of magic, the greater the pressure. The handsome guy didn't react at all. There was no comparison. They weren't even on the same level. No, they weren't even creatures of the same dimension. The handsome guy moved forward several times. Each time, he would carefully ask Chen Zhao if he could still take the pressure. Finally, Chen Zhao felt that the pressure he could withstand had reached its limit. The handsome young man also stopped moving forward. In this place, the mana conversion system in Chen Zhao's body was not activated by the Qingyi manual. Instead, it passively allowed the external spiritual energy to propel it forward. At this time, no matter what cultivation method he used, it would not be faster than external power. Chen Zhao was cultivating passively. This couldn't even be considered cultivation. It was just watching his mana grow bit by bit. Chen Zhao's body was like a pond. The cultivation technique was equivalent to a water pump. When cultivating, the water pump would be activated, and the water would be pumped into the pond. However, the current situation was that the water pressure was too high. The water was directly pumped into the pond, and the pump did not need to be activated at all. Of course, Chen Zhao's body was still a rather large pond. Therefore, even if his cultivation speed doubled, it was still a drop in the bucket compared to his own mana source. If he could maintain this state for more than 10 days, his mana source would probably double. But Chen Zhao clearly didn't have that much time. Even if the handsome guy summoned him, he couldn't change the rules. Chen Zhao only had 24 disappearances. Just then, Chen Zhao saw a huge demon flying to the front. The handsome guy frowned and pointed. The demon instantly fell from the sky. Chen Zhao glanced at the handsome guy, not understanding what he was doing. I don't like strangers running in front of me. It's an eyesore. Fine, you're a demon king. How long will the mana tide last? A few days. 1,000 years ago, were humans communicating with hell very frequently? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Yes, there were indeed many humans communicating with hell back then. Then why did it disappear later? The rules. The rules changed. Demons affected the human world, and even affected the progress of the human world. So the rules gradually changed. Then who made the rules? Gods. No. You should have come into contact with the alien god, right? Do you think that counts as a god? Chen Zhao shook his head. Alien god? He'd beaten up the alien god like a dog. Chen Zhao didn't think that gods were useless. What about the gods in your eyes? I've never seen a god. I was born from the rules, just like my other brothers and sisters. Are you talking about heaven's brothers and sisters or hell's? Both, the handsome guy said. So we can't break the rules. Am I hallucinating? Your hair seems to be growing longer. Because my magic power is growing too, the handsome guy said. Although this growth is meaningless to me. Will the growth of magic power make your hair grow longer? A small spell. My magic power is too large, so I use my hair to store magic power, and then, as the handsome boy spoke, his hair suddenly shortened again. Then I send magic power into my magic source. You can try this small spell. It can speed up the conversion of magic power in elements. Chen Zhao was interested, and started asking the handsome guy for advice. However, Chen Zhao didn't learn this spell because it could speed up cultivation. It was because it was interesting. The handsome guy imparted the spell to Chen Zhao without hesitation. It was indeed a simple spell, but it wasn't. However, when Chen Zhao's hair reached his waist, he took a look in the mirror and smashed it. So ugly. Chen Zhao directly sent the magic power into his mana source. He would never use this spell again. It was so fucking ugly. Chen Zhao must be crazy to want to grow his hair long. He didn't have the handsome guy's unparalleled beauty. The length of his hair had a different beauty to him. Chen Zhao only had one conclusion. Long hair really wasn't suitable for him. Actually, if you don't like long hair, you can try body hair. It'll have the same effect. Chen Zhao thought about how furry he looked and couldn't help but feel a chill run down his spine. He wouldn't do it even if he was beaten to death. Give it a try. No, it's ugly, the handsome guy rejected decisively. It's fine. You can handle it. The handsome guy turned his head and ignored Chen Zhao. Chapter 1243. Suddenly, Chen Zhao cast a spell on the handsome guy. The handsome guy was already prepared. Chen Zhao was clearly 100 years too early to ambush him with his current level. The handsome guy didn't hold back either. He casually cast a spell on Chen Zhao. Instantly, Chen Zhao turned into a hairy savage. Alright, there was really no point in playing this trick. The level difference was too big. Comparing Chen Zhao and the handsome guy, one was a level 100 player with paywalls, while the other was a level 1 player with 0 paywalls. After playing for a while, the handsome guy turned Chen Zhao into a hairy monster. To be honest, I've never thought of using this spell on anyone before you. There's something called hair growth in the human world. I think this spell suits the name. Hair growth. Don't you think it's appropriate? The handsome guy snapped his fingers and all the thick hair on Chen Zhao fell off. Then it's called hair loss. Teach me this spell too. It's too complicated. You can't cast it with your current strength. What? Hair tonic can be used, but hair loss can't be used? Hair growth is a blessing spell, but hair loss is a curse. The magic theory is much more complicated. If you can reach the level of a great lord one day, you should be able to learn hair loss. How far is my current strength from that of a great lord? About 100 times. Chen Zhao almost vomited blood. He thought that he should be very close to that level. He didn't expect to be shocked by the handsome guy's words. Is the difference that huge? Don't you have a great lord friend? I think he's Beelzebub's subordinate. You should be even weaker than him. Is Beelzebub Zophie stronger than a normal great lord? He's mastered the devouring technique. He's already devoured 4 great lords of the same level. So he's much more powerful than a normal great lord. There are less than 100 great lords like him in hell. He's close to a secondary demon king now. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. He remembered that when Beelzebub, Zophi, and Oris gave him Abydos, they'd said that they had a plan, but they didn't say it clearly. They said that they wanted him to take care of and educate Abydos, as well as to seek refuge. Chen Zhao had always been confused. They were so powerful. Why would they hide? Moreover, they shouldn't have any stronger enemies, right? Regular lords were no match for Beelzebub Zophi. Was there a need to entrust his own son to him? It felt like he was entrusting an orphan to her. Handsome, does he want to do something? Chen Zhao asked. Yes, do you want to know? Chen Zhao was conflicted. Should he find out from the handsome guy? Can I know? There's nothing I can't know, the handsome boy said. Then tell me. Their goal is very simple, to hunt secondary demon kings, said the handsome guy. You're saying that Beelzebub Zophi wants to challenge someone more powerful than him? It's not a challenge. It's an attempt to replace him, the handsome young man said. To deliberately devour other great lords to accumulate and increase their own strength, the goal is clear. Naturally, it's to replace a secondary demon king. Can he succeed? 1%, the handsome guy said. The handsome young man said, there are too many lords in hell. Almost every lord has their own ambitions, and there are not many lords who put their ambitions into action. Since I came to hell, there have only been a few successful examples. Is the success rate that low? Although a secondary demon king isn't a true demon king, I personally conferred the title. Without the right, I won't confer the title. Therefore, a secondary demon king is already very powerful. To be conferred the title of a secondary demon king, a new one can only be appointed after a secondary demon king dies of old age. However, in the past few thousand years, no secondary demon king will die of old age. Therefore, the ambitious great lords naturally won't be willing to wait for a few thousand years. They'll personally kill the weaker secondary demon kings. What do you mean by weaker? Even the weakest secondary demon king is still 10 times stronger than your friend. Didn't you say that he's very close to becoming a secondary demon king? Yes, he's indeed very close. Originally, he was 100 times weaker, but now he's only 10 times weaker. Isn't he very close? Chen Zhao was speechless. There seemed to be something wrong with the concept of close. Don't worry. Before he reaches a true level, he won't do anything. You're saying that Beelzebub Zophi can also reach the level of a secondary demon king. He can in terms of power. Then, other than power, what's the difference? Secondary demon king. Why do you think he's a demon king? I don't know. As long as you have the title of demon king, no matter if you're a secondary demon king or a demon king, you'll have subordinates. The more subordinates you have, the stronger the demon king will be. But didn't you say that you don't have subordinates? You're not the strongest. I'm different from the other 6 great demon kings. We don't need to take the initiative to increase the number of subordinates, because all the demons are our descendants. All the demon kings and secondary demon kings are our subordinates. Is it like the demonic domain that the enemy I met a few days ago, Kensmosa? More or less the same, but you can't compare it like that. It's almost the same, but it can't be compared like this. The demon domain that relies on opportunistic methods to obtain itself is incomplete, and it's a one-sided enslavement. On the other hand, being a subordinate is a win-win situation. If the subordinate is strong, then the bloodline of the subordinate's descendants will also be strong. If one day, one of them is weak, the strength of the other will not fall because of it. This subordination relationship is protected by the rules. If one day, the strength of the subordinate's descendants reaches the secondary demon king level, then they will leave their original subordination and become someone else's subordinate. What about me? Am I Beelzebub Zophi's subordinate? Your right arm is, but it doesn't belong to him. It belongs to the king of gluttony. He's a great lord, so he doesn't have the power or ability to have subordinates. When you reach the level of a secondary demon king in the future, I can help you squeeze out a spot for a secondary demon king. Then, you can leave Beelzebub. Forget it. Chen Zhao shook his head. Is there anything I can help Beelzebub Zophi with? Chapter 1244. How many secondary demon kings are there? 99, the handsome guy said. That many? Of course. In hell, including me, there are 7 major demon kings, 21 demon kings, and 99 secondary demon kings. In the past 100,000 years, there have been 12 secondary demon kings and 1 demon king. Do you decide on demon kings and secondary demon kings? I don't have to decide on demon kings. Secondary demon kings that can challenge demon kings can naturally be replaced. Can demon kings challenge major demon kings? Theoretically, yes, but it's also impossible. At least, there's no record of any demon king challenging major demon kings. To Chen Zhao, the things that the handsome guy was talking about were too far away from him. He was more concerned about Beelzebub Sophie's safety. Because he was a friend. It was that simple. Oh, did you bring the demon god pillar? No. You can bring the demon god pillar next time. I will help you find a suitable demon and seal it in the demon god pillar to be used as your familiar. Chen Zhao's heart jumped. The demon god pillar in Mirror Lake was still empty. Chen Zhao had always wanted to find a suitable demon to be his familiar. Agar's was not bad, but she wasn't actually very strong. She wasn't even as strong as Abito's, so it was meaningless to bring her to his doorstep. I want a demon that can protect my territory, Chen Zhao said. It'd be best if it's easy to control and not untamed. Next time you come to hell, I'll help you find one. Chen Zhao stayed in hell for a full 24 hours. His magic power increased by 1/10. It wasn't much, but it wasn't a small amount either. These 24 hours were probably equivalent to half a year of normal cultivation. Chen Zhao knew his current level and how difficult it was to double his magic power. Chen Zhao returned to the human world and saw 2 missed calls. They were from West. Hey, guild leader, there's a man called Inro. He says he wants to meet with you. That liar. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead. Earlier, Sharon had asked him to teach Inro a lesson for her. Chen Zhao hadn't agreed. This had nothing to do with him. Plus, he'd helped Sharon record Inro's dirty plans. He'd already done his best. Chen Zhao was too lazy to be a busybody. This couldn't even be considered as acting bravely for a just cause. Shalon was a cop herself, and she had the skills to deal with a liar. Therefore, Chen Zhao didn't feel the need to be nosy. However, Chen Zhao didn't expect Inro to still find him. Guild leader, that person is a swindler? What did he lie about? He's a con man who takes women's money, Chen Zhao said calmly. Guild leader, how do you know such a person? West's tone was filled with obvious disgust. A suicidal idiot, Chen Zhao said. Where did he ask to meet me? Bar 551 Richard Street. Richard Main Street? That far. Guild leader, these scammers usually have many tricks up their sleeves. You'd better be careful. West wasn't worried about Chen Zhao's safety. If there was really something that could threaten his safety, it would probably be the end of the world. However, swindlers were different. They might not be harming people's lives. Got it, I'll be careful. Chen Zhao arrived at Richard Main Street. Richard Main Street was an old neighborhood. In the 50s and 60s, before Hollywood's movie industry was established, Richard Main Street was already a famous industrial district. However, as Los Angeles's pillar industry changed and the movie industry rose, Los Angeles became a world-famous movie factory. Richard Main Street gradually declined. There were still many old houses on both sides of the street. Most of them were built in the 50s and 60s, old and weathered. There weren't many people living here. There were also very few people and cars on the street. When Chen Zhao had wanted to come to America, he'd done some research. This was one of the places where the rent was cheap, and it was safe. This was a white neighborhood. Although it had declined, most of the residents still retained their stubbornness and pride. They also had some racial tendencies. If Chen Zhao had chosen to rent a house here, he might not have been able to get one. Chen Zhao parked the car on the side of the road and strolled around the shops. Soon Chen Zhao found Bar 551. Bar 551 wasn't a house number. It was just called Bar 551. Chen Zhao didn't know why it had such a strange name. A man in a windbreaker pushed open the door of the bar and bumped into Chen Zhao. The two glanced at each other. The man shrugged. Sorry. Chen Zhao touched his pockets. He hadn't lost anything. Entering the bar, Chen Zhao saw Inro. Smiling, Chen Zhao sat down before Inro. At the same time, he asked the waiter to pour 2 glasses of wine. Hi, Mr. Inro. I heard you were looking for me. Mr. Chen, did you tell Sharon about my plan? Inro looked at Chen Zhao with a livid expression. What are you talking about? I don't understand. You tricked me. Inro stared at Chen Zhao angrily. Don't you know the rules of our industry? You causing trouble like this, and exposing my plan, is not tolerated by the industry. Chen Zhao finally understood. This guy was here to punish him. Chen Zhao didn't know if Sharon had told him everything. Chen Zhao didn't care what Inro's goal was. He only blamed Sharon. After all, he'd helped her. How did he get involved again? I don't understand the rules. Chen Zhao stood up. If there's nothing else, I'll be leaving. Chen Zhao wasn't interested in wasting time with a liar who tricked women. So he turned to leave. Just then, Inro slammed the table and stood up angrily. Yellow monkey, do you know you've made a stupid decision? Chen Zhao stopped and turned to look at Inro. Don't force me to attack you here. You'll regret it. Inro stared at Chen Zhao with a livid expression. Chen Zhao sneered. Regret? He really wasn't afraid of Inro's threat. If Inro's threat could really pose a threat to him, then he wouldn't have specialized in deceiving women. I'm looking forward to seeing how you'll make me regret it. With that, Chen Zhao turned to leave. On his way home, he received a call from David. Hi David. How come you have time to call me? Where are you now? Home. What's up? Chapter 1245. Escape. David, your joke is so strange. I'm strange. You're the one who's strange. David's bruises were slightly angry. Are you going to come to the police station and surrender yourself? Or do I have to arrest you myself? I don't know what you're talking about. Your murder of Imro Becker has already been recorded by the surveillance cameras. I think you don't have to pretend in front of me anymore. Wait. Kill Imro Beck. Chen Zhao was dumbfounded. What kind of nonsense was this? When did he kill that liar? David, say it clearly. I don't care what you want to say. Anyway, come to the police station immediately. If you're sentenced, your sentence will be reduced. Chen Zhao didn't know whether to laugh or cry. What was going on? But he couldn't explain it now. He could only go to the police station and figure things out first. When Chen Zhao parked the car in front of the police station, Sharon was already there, staring at him. You did this for me? Weird. Chen Zhao rolled his eyes and entered the police station without looking back. Seeing Chen Zhao, David handcuffed him right away. Chen Zhao looked at the handcuffs. It wasn't the first time he'd put them on. Last time, it was Sharon who'd done it for him. Chen Zhao didn't think that David would do it himself this time. Is it necessary? Chen Zhao looked at David helplessly. Follow me. David brought Chen Zhao to the interrogation room and closed the door. Chen, why did you kill that person? David, I didn't kill anyone. At least I didn't kill anyone today. Where were you at exactly 4 in the afternoon? Chen Zhao didn't really remember the time. After thinking, he said, either at 551 bar or in the car. But the surveillance camera at the entrance of 551 bar recorded the entire process of you killing Imro Becker. You even dragged Imro Becker's body into a van. Chen Zhao scratched his head. Can I see the surveillance? David looked at Chen Zhao deeply. He knew many things about Chen Zhao. He even knew that Chen Zhao would sometimes use private torture. David wouldn't ask about it either. After all, some of Chen Zhao's actions went against his professional ethics. But this time, Chen Zhao was too brazen. So David was even more conflicted. In the previous call, he even hoped that Chen Zhao would run away and disappear from the world. But he didn't expect Chen Zhao to turn himself in so casually. David played the surveillance video to Chen Zhao. The surveillance video recorded Chen Zhao entering and leaving the bar. When he saw this, he looked up at David. See, I've already left. But just as he finished speaking, Inro walked out of the bar. At this moment, a van suddenly braked in front of the bar. In the video, Chen Zhao charged out of the van and shot Inro's head 3 times. Then he dragged Inro's body into the van. Chen Zhao's eyes widened in disbelief. Because the person in the monitor was really him, and he was dressed exactly the same as him. David ended the video and looked at Chen Zhao. The owner of the bar called the police. He also confirmed that you and Imro Beck had an argument in the bar. Chen Zhao rubbed his head. Can I say that I'm not the murderer in this video? Chen, the evidence is clear now. Why are you still denying it? I hope you can hand over Imro Becker's body. I really didn't do it. Chen Zhao's face was filled with helplessness. Chen. Someone changed into my appearance and committed the crime, Chen Zhao said. Do you think that if I wanted to kill someone, I would do it so openly? David frowned at Chen Zhao. To be honest, if there wasn't this video, he wouldn't believe it either. He believed that Chen Zhao wouldn't be crazy enough to commit murder in broad daylight. More importantly, did Chen Zhao need a gun? I didn't do it. Are you serious? David stared at Chen Zhao seriously. Chen Zhao rubbed his chin. Turn around and look. When David turned around, he was shocked. Behind him, a black and red liquid appeared, as if it was going to swallow him. Chen Zhao had shown David the dark lava. At the same time, he'd swallowed the table in the torture room right in front of him. Did you see that? Chen Zhao said helplessly. If I wanted to kill someone and destroy the evidence, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. I can make them disappear without anyone noticing. I don't need to self-destruct like this. Chen Zhao couldn't show this ability in court, but David believed Chen Zhao. So someone really changed into your appearance and committed murder in the street? Chen Zhao nodded. David was troubled. Is this person also a spiritualist? Maybe. It's possible. If it's just plastic surgery, they can't change their clothes in such a short time. I think it's some kind of spiritualist magic. If that's the case, this person can change into your appearance. Then it's possible that he can also change into someone else's appearance. In this case, it's almost impossible to catch the real culprit, and you will inevitably be tried in court, and your crime will almost never be cleared. So troublesome. Chen Zhao sighed. Use my phone, and call someone called West. Tell him to come here. Fei Lai. Try to hide it if you can. Call her and tell her that I got drunk here, Chen Zhao said. Oh, if I want to be released on bail, what procedures do I need? How much? You can't be released on bail now. Why? Because your assets and the current evidence are too obvious. So you can't be released on bail. Even if it's accepted, you'll probably have to pay $10 million. No one was in more pain than David, because he knew that his friend was innocent. But he couldn't do anything. He even had to send his friend to jail with his own hands. Chen Zhao was very angry now too, but he had to suppress his anger. He couldn't vent it on David, right? You can only stay in the detention room tonight. David seemed pained. Tomorrow, you'll be transferred to jail until the court or I find groundbreaking evidence. Chen Zhao nodded helplessly. He was really unlucky this time, but he didn't have high hopes for David and the police. Chapter 1246. Chen Zhao was locked in the police station's detention room. The handcuffs were temporarily removed. Actually, David also knew that handcuffs were meaningless to Chen Zhao. In fact, the police station was meaningless to Chen Zhao. If Chen Zhao wanted to leave, no one could stop him. Chen Zhao didn't think that he would have a day like this. However, Chen Zhao actually had a cellmate. It was a bald fatty wearing a loose t-shirt. There were all sorts of strange tattoos on his head, extending all the way to his shoulders. His expression was ferocious. Chen Zhao lay on the bed, but the fatty was already staring at him. Kid, take off your pants, the bald fatty shouted. Chen Zhao turned his head and glanced at the fatty, after which he sat up. What did you say? I told you to take off your pants. Chen Zhao stood up, but he subconsciously glanced at the surveillance camera. He was already very angry, very angry. I told you to take off your pants. Don't you understand? The fatty roared again. At the same time, he stood up and reached out to grab Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao swung his fist and smashed into the wall behind the fat bald man. His body smashed into the fat bald man's body. The fat bald man was knocked back onto the bed. He saw Chen Zhao's fist retract from the wall. The dust on the wall landed on the fatty's face. Baldy raised his head and looked at the hole in the wall. His expression suddenly became unnatural. Chen Zhao put his hands on the edge of the bed frame. He squeezed hard, deforming the metal frame. What did you say? Say it again. I was joking. The fatty wanted to cry. He was about to piss his pants. He'd thought that Chen Zhao was an Asian with yellow skin. He'd heard that Asians were all cowards in America. Who would have thought that Chen Zhao wasn't cowardly at all? He even looked ferocious. More importantly, this guy was so strong that he didn't seem human. Duang duang. Chen Zhao turned around and saw David standing outside the door. He knocked on the metal fence. Chen, someone's here to visit you. Chen Zhao rubbed his forehead and walked to the fence. When David opened the door, Chen Zhao said, "If he wants to change rooms, don't agree." David looked at the bald fatty who was so scared that he peed his pants, and then nodded. Chen Zhao was brought to the interrogation room and saw West sitting there. Generally speaking, when a suspect was locked up in a temporary detention center, he was not allowed to see anyone other than his lawyer. But West must have his own ways. Seeing Chen Zhao in handcuffs, West covered his mouth to stifle his laughter. He had never seen Chen Zhao in such a sorry state. "If you're here to mock me, I'll make you regret it when I get out," Chen Zhao threatened. "All right, guild leader. Let's get down to business." West immediately gave in. The mocking words that he had prepared were immediately tossed aside, not daring to come out of his mouth again. "Guild leader, tell me the specifics." "I was framed." Chen Zhao told the whole story. "There are people who can change their appearance and even their clothes?" "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded. "Is there a way to capture him?" "Alice knows divination, but it'll be difficult if the person's magic level is higher than Alice." "Then let Alice do the divination first," Chen Zhao said. Seeing that Chen Zhao was filled with anger, West didn't dare to provoke Chen Zhao. Otherwise, Chen Zhao would really lose control. Chen Zhao didn't want things to get out of hand. After all, Fei Lai was pregnant. He didn't want her to be worried. "Tomorrow, call Fei Lai and tell her that I'm going on a secret mission." "Okay." Chen Zhao stood up and walked out of the interrogation room. David was waiting for him at the door. He wasn't eavesdropping at the door. Instead, he was helping Chen Zhao watch and make sure that other police officers wouldn't come. "Are you done?" "Yes." Chen Zhao nodded. David brought Chen Zhao back to the detention room. "Can your friend help you find the person?" "I hope so." To be honest, Chen Zhao's thoughts were all over the place. If he really couldn't find the person, what should he do? Run away? Then his 1 year of hard work would go down the drain. Or accept the punishment of the law. Or go to jail for 8 to 10 years. Either way, Chen Zhao couldn't accept it. Indeed, he had to find the culprit. Chen Zhao returned to his detention room with a dark expression. Seeing the trembling bald fatty, a cruel smile appeared on Chen Zhao's face. "I'm warning you, don't do anything stupid." "I know a gang." The bald fatty stared at Chen Zhao in fear. "You're right. Are you gay?" No. "Then what do you want me to do by taking off my pants?" I just want to tease you." Chen Zhao couldn't understand this kind of bad taste. "You like people taking off their pants? Fine, then take off your pants." What are you doing?" The fatty covered his butt and stared at Chen Zhao in terror. "Are you going to take it off yourself, or do I have to help you?" Chen Zhao looked at the fatty. To be honest, he wasn't really interested in the fatty's naked body. However, the fatty had provoked him first. If Chen Zhao didn't fight back, the fatty would really look down on him. "I'm not doing anything. I just like to see naked bodies." When Chen Zhao said this, even he felt like vomiting. "I'll sue you. I'll sue you for bodily harm." The fatty didn't think that one day, he'd have to use the law to protect himself. Chen Zhao looked around, and then dismantled the fatty's bed frame. He held an iron rod in his hand. "When I take off your clothes and pants, there'll be one more of this in your dick. Do you believe me?" No. The fatty felt as wronged as a wife who'd just met a hooligan. He didn't know that Chen Zhao was so fierce. In the end, under Chen Zhao's coercion, the fatty took off his clothes and pants. "Just leave your underwear." So fucking disgusting. Chen Zhao couldn't bear to watch anymore. He lay back on his bed and turned his back. However, he tossed and turned, unable to fall asleep. Chen Zhao turned around and glanced at the fatty. At the moment, the fatty was curled up on his bed. Because of Chen Zhao's violent actions, his bed had already collapsed. "Hey, what's your name?" The fatty looked up at Chen Zhao. He didn't really want to speak. But after some thought, considering Chen Zhao's combat power, he still spoke. "Morocco Bic." What crime did you commit? Chapter 1247. Morocco Piccolo would be sent to prison tomorrow, just like him. Just the thought of going to jail gave him a headache. Go to jail, stay in jail. Chen Zhao was getting more and more anxious. Morocco curled up in the corner. He felt that Chen Zhao's gaze was a bit scary. Even the air in the detention room became oppressive. Morocco curled up like that for the whole night. Chen Zhao didn't sleep for the entire night. He just sat on the bed. The next day, Chen Zhao and Morocco were sent to the escort vehicle to a prison in the suburbs. Chen Zhao's hands and feet were shackled. According to the prison rules of the United States, when transferring prisoners, murderers were required to wear leg cuffs. So, Chen Zhao was honored to put on the shackles. Morocco glanced at Chen Zhao, who was in the same car as him. He secretly prayed that he wouldn't be in the same cell as Chen Zhao again. Otherwise, he would be in big trouble. After arriving at the prison, Chen Zhao was finally unshackled. He changed into an orange prison uniform. Then he was sent to his cell. Coincidentally, when Morocco saw Chen Zhao walk into the prison, he looked like he was about to cry. "Hi Morocco, we meet again." Hee, what a coincidence. Morocco felt like crying. Thankfully, he wasn't as irritable as he was in the detention center. At least when Morocco didn't provoke him, Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered to vent his anger on him. How long is the sentence for intentional homicide in Morocco? Morocco's heart skipped a beat. He couldn't be a homicidal maniac, right? It depends on the plot. It's shooting someone in the head in the middle of the street. At least 10 years. Hearing Morocco's answer, Chen Zhao started thinking about how to escape. How troublesome. At this moment, the ringing of a bell came from outside the cell. What's that sound? When Morocco heard this, he relaxed and explained, "It's lunchtime." At this moment, the electronic door opened with a click. Chen Zhao and Morocco walked out of the cell. The prison canteen was a hodgepodge. There were all kinds of people. Of course, Chen Zhao was also one of the various types of people. Chen Zhao carried a plate. The prisoner in charge of carrying the food looked up at him. "Newbie." The prisoner casually gave Chen Zhao some food. Chen Zhao didn't like this attitude. Even if he didn't care about the amount of food. "Forget it. I'm already in prison. It's better to keep a low profile." Chen Zhao found Morocco's seat. Seeing Chen Zhao sit down, Morocco immediately put a drumstick on his plate to Chen Zhao. "No, you eat," Chen Zhao said calmly. But just then, a big guy walked over and grabbed the drumstick from Chen Zhao's plate, eating it right away. "It's not your fault." The big guy looked down at Chen Zhao. "Newbie, you don't seem to understand what this place is." Bullying newcomers was a prison rule. Whether it was in China or abroad, the rules were the same. Han Bao, as a veteran of the prison industry, was very knowledgeable about prisons and had a lot of feelings for them. After all, Han Bao had been in prison for 15 years. Of course, it wasn't because he committed a crime. "This is a prison, a place for bastards." "Haha. You also know that it's a place for assholes, so you should know that I'm an asshole." The big guy patted Chen Zhao's head lightly. "Pa!" Chen Zhao had already smashed the plate into the big guy's face. All the prisoners looked at Chen Zhao. However, no one was surprised by this. In this place, there would be a fight almost every day. Even the prison guards weren't surprised. So they didn't care about the fights. Of course, if someone hit too hard, they'd be locked up. The big guy climbed up and wiped the food off his face. His expression was ferocious. "Bastard, I'm going to kill you." With that, the big guy pounced at Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao reached out and grabbed the guy's chest, slamming him heavily onto the ground. Bang! The entire cafeteria could hear the sound of the big guy's intimate contact with the ground. "I forgot to tell you," Chen Zhao said with a faint smile. "I'm also very knowledgeable about killing. Maybe we can discuss it." The big guy reached out to scratch Chen Zhao, but his limbs couldn't reach Chen Zhao. Suddenly, someone hit the back of Chen Zhao's head hard. Chen Zhao turned around and saw a black man hitting him. Chen Zhao pushed forward, and the black man fell 3 or 4 meters away, landing heavily on the ground. But another person came up to attack Chen Zhao. Chen Zhao lifted his hand and threw it again, smashing it onto the big guy's body. Another one seeking his own death. And another one. Chen Zhao used one move after another, piling them all on the big guy's body. After knocking down 6 people in a row, no one else continued to attack Chen Zhao. Just then, the prison guard on the second floor knocked on the metal bars with his baton. "Stop, you bastards! Don't look for trouble." The prison guards also liked to watch fights, but they would stop it before it got out of hand. Chen Zhao took the lunches of the 6 prisoners he'd knocked down. Under everyone's gaze, he ate all 6 lunches. Morocco stared at Chen Zhao with wide eyes. Not only could this guy fight, but he could also eat. In prison, there were usually 3 types of prisoners. The other type was that those who had gangs outside would form their own cliques after entering prison. Other prisoners were basically unwilling to provoke these cliques, and they wouldn't actively provoke other prisoners either. Another type was those who were better at fighting. They would gather a group of people and wouldn't provoke the cliques. Instead, they would provoke newcomers, and those who were easier to bully. The third type was those who were easy to bully. There were also people like Chen Zhao who looked like they were easy to bully. Of course, after this battle, there shouldn't be anyone who would think that way anymore. Although a prisoner like the big guy had been taught a lesson by Chen Zhao, this was too common in prison. However, this kind of thing was too common in prison, and it was always bullying. There wasn't any life or death feud. After this, they might not become friends, but they wouldn't become enemies either. Just like in the movies, after being beaten up, you would stab someone with a knife. This would never happen in real life. Prisoners weren't stupid either. They wouldn't seek death. In prison, there weren't many prisoners who would want to take their opponent down with them, just because they'd been beaten up. Chen Zhao suddenly slapped his head. He could have been released for medical treatment. He should have been beaten up by these bastards, and then released for medical treatment. Morocco, who was sitting opposite Chen Zhao, was shocked. He didn't know why Chen Zhao had such a sudden reaction. Chen Zhao looked at the big guy and the others with a bitter expression. Seeing Chen Zhao's gaze, the big guy and the others couldn't help but shiver. Chapter 1248. Lingam, you're really something. Imro patted his partner's shoulder. That yellow-skinned monkey must be regretting it now. Never in his wildest dreams would he think that he'd end up in jail for no reason. Lingam crossed his legs and drank his whiskey nonchalantly. He'd worked with Imro many times. Imro knew his abilities. Of course, it was more like hiring than working together. Each time, Imro would pay him tens of thousands to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Here's your check for this trip. Lingam glanced at the check and pocketed it. Suddenly, Lingam's brows twitched as a very bad feeling crept into his heart. Lingam stood up abruptly. Someone's trying to find my location. What do you mean? Imro wasn't a spiritualist, so he didn't really understand. Lingam's special bloodline allowed him to change into someone else's appearance after coming into contact with them. This ability was almost unsolvable for ordinary people. But for spiritualists there were ways such as divination. However, Lingam had telepathy. If someone used divination to find his location, he'd immediately sense it. Divination could indeed lock onto a person's location to a large extent, but it could only lock onto a temporary location. It couldn't be tracked. So Lingam only needed to change his location, and the person would miss him. Let's leave immediately, Lingam said. Do we have to leave now? Yes, we have to. Imro hurriedly packed his things and left the rental house with Lingam. 20 minutes after they left, West, Alice, and Klaus came in. Huh? Where is he? Did he run away? Klaus kept his hands behind his back. He looked around the rental house to make sure there was no one. Is it a coincidence? Or did he notice that we're following him? Call Alice first and ask her if she can divine it again. Mr. West, don't touch that first. We can find fingerprints on it. What's the use of fingerprints? West asked, confused. That person can change his face, but his fingerprints might not be the same. I need to confirm if his fingerprints are in the government's archives. If they are, I might be able to find his various records, including his real identity and what kind of car he has now. What's the point of knowing what car he's using now? We don't know where he is, so it's pointless. Mr. West, don't you know that surveillance cameras can automatically identify license plates? Lingam's hair stood on end again. Not again. Damn it, who's divining me? Lingam didn't feel good at all. To be able to divine him continuously, it was very likely that the other party was a spiritualist stronger than him, or even a witch. Lingam himself was a spiritualist, but he did not know much about the supernatural world. Most of the people he came into contact with were the elders of the family. His family elders had always warned him not to have any conflict with witches. Their family was not a powerful spiritualist family. If he encountered a witch who was extremely aggressive, then he would hide and escape as much as he could. Never think of provoking a witch. If she was divined 3 times in a row in a short period of time, then she was most likely a witch. Generally speaking, wizards did not have such powerful magic power. Inro, drive in another direction, Lingam said to Inro who was driving. Lingam, what's going on? Someone's using magic to track us, Lingam said. Inro was shocked. You mean there's someone else with special abilities besides you? You think I'm unique in this world? Lingam looked at Inro as if he was an idiot. What do we do now? It's okay. As long as we keep changing locations, that person won't be able to find us. Then if he keeps using magic to track us, we won't even be able to stop, right? He can't keep using magic to track us. At most 3 or 4 times. As soon as Lingam finished, the feeling came again. Damn it, it's only been a while, and it's here again. Lingam told Inro to change directions again. But not long after, Lingam felt it again. Bastard, who's looking for me? What does he want? Isn't he tired of using divination so recklessly? Bastard, he changed locations again. This guy can sense my divination? Alice said in surprise. Can't you determine his location? Gaia asked. He seems to be constantly moving. Every time I finish divination, he'll change directions. What should we do? It's okay. He has to stop eventually. I'll just keep doing it. You keep using divination. Can your magic power hold up? He's very weak. I can do it for the whole night. The mana cost of divination was related to the target's mana. If the target's mana was 1, then the cost would be 1 too. If it was 10, then the cost would be 10 too. Alice estimated her own mana cost. The person's mana should be less than 30. This was even lower than the lowest mana of the supernatural organization's members before Chen Zhao's era. Now Alice's mana was as high as 350. It consumed less than 30 points of magic power each time, which was no problem for Alice. Basically, she could use divination every 10 minutes to recover her mana. Therefore, she could use divination infinitely. Of course, except when she was eating, sleeping, or going to the toilet. Alice worked especially hard too. After all, she was an early member, and her magic was special. Alice wasn't a combat witch, although she could attack. She wasn't a support type witch either. She was a functional witch. Sealing, divination, and prediction spells were her forte. At the same time, she belonged to the magic encyclopedia. Of course, because it wasn't complete, many spells weren't complete. He changed directions again. He seems to be leaving the city. He's on Route 122 now. Route 122? That road should lead to Compton, Gaia said, holding the map. You said that he'll change directions every time you do divination, right? Yes, Gaia analyzed. It was originally at Shilin Street, then here, and finally Highway 122. Gaia's eyes flashed. She pointed at the map. Alice, next divination after 30 minutes. Don't do it before then. Chapter 1249. Chen Zhao was depressed. After the fight, he'd wanted to continue provoking Big Guy and his gang. But they were all terrified. This doesn't seem to be the same as what I know. Chen Zhao wanted to get beaten up. But in this prison, no one was willing to fight him anymore. As a result, Chen Zhao didn't have a good appetite during dinner. He ate unhappily. Boss Chen, are you full? Morocco asked. Do you need me to get you some food? No need. Chen Zhao was very unhappy. He kept staring at Big Guy and his gang. Big Guy and his gang kept their heads down, not daring to meet Chen Zhao's eyes. Boss Chen, there's a boxing match tonight. What kind of match? Chen Zhao asked, confused. It's organized by the prison guards. The contestants are all serious criminals. Chen Zhao wasn't a serious criminal. He was just a suspect now. Before he was convicted, he wasn't a real guest here. Generally, The felons in the prison lived separately from the ordinary prisoners. They would only go together when they had to eat, or when they were out for a walk. Nothing will happen. Of course. Every year, a few people die on the stage, Morocco said. But so what? Yeah, so what? Even in a country with relatively complete laws like America, there were still many dark people. But the prison guards can't force you to participate in this match, right? The prison guards have their ways. Which serious criminal doesn't want their sentence reduced? Every time they reduce their sentence, the prison has to issue an evaluation form. The prison guards have the absolute right to decide. Are you familiar with this prison? I've been here at least 6 times, Morocco said. The longest time was 2.5 years. After dinner, Chen Zhao and Morocco returned to their cells. Around 10 at night, there was the sound of a baton knocking on the cell door. A prison guard poked his head in. Are you asleep? Neither Chen Zhao nor Morocco was asleep. No, Morocco replied. At this moment, the cell door was opened. Knock, knock. The guard knocked on the door again, then left. What does he mean? He's asking if we're going or not. If we're going, go to the cafeteria. If not, close the door. There were so many rules in this prison. However, he still wanted to see the world. So he went to the cafeteria with Morocco. At this time, the tables and chairs in the canteen had been pushed to the corner. 40 to 50 prisoners were standing on the tables and chairs beside them. A dozen prison guards were standing in front of the bars on the second floor. A short convict was walking among the other prisoners, collecting gambling money. This short prisoner was probably the prison guard's lackey. Help the prison guards open the gambling house and collect the gambling money. Chen Zhao was quite surprised that these criminals actually had cash. Moreover, it was like a regular boxing match. There was even a host holding a microphone, introducing the first 2 contestants to the audience and gamblers. Chen Zhao heard that people didn't use their fists in underground fights. However, the fighters in this prison boxing match were wearing masks. The rate of death and disability without gloves was too high. If the prison guards organized a boxing match, they probably wouldn't earn more than $10,000. However, if one person died, the various procedures and arrangements would be very troublesome, and the gains would not make up for the losses. Therefore, the boxing match was still carried out in a more formal way, and there were also referees. Of course, rather than calling it a boxing match, it would be more accurate to call it a freestyle fight. Most of the rules were also freestyle fights. Apart from not stabbing the eyes or attacking the lower body, all attacks were allowed. Chen Zhao had thought that he would be able to see a bloody fight, but he was still somewhat disappointed. The fight to the death like in movies and TV dramas did not appear. Of course, it might also be because there weren't many benefits. Boss Chen, do you want to buy some to play? The short convict asked Chen Zhao. I don't have money. Chen Zhao had everything in his spatial ring except cash. Boss Chen, I do. Where did you get the money? Chen Zhao saw Morocco take out a stack of money. It was at least $1,000. Chen Zhao had heard from Morocco that he had robbed a convenience store for a few $100s and even injured an employee. How could he have more than $1,000 now? Chen Zhao found it unbelievable. I'm here to help someone bring goods. Chen Zhao was stunned. This guy was helping someone bring drugs into prison. However, Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered with Morocco. Morocco wasn't anyone to him. They weren't even friends. How did you bring it in? Chen Zhao asked curiously. But Morocco bet $100 for Chen Zhao, and also bought $100 for himself. How much can you earn each time you bring goods? $10,000. Chen Zhao was speechless. He had to bring at least $50,000 worth of goods to get $10,000 in shipping fees, right? Chen Zhao wasn't in this business, but he still knew about the prices of these black industries. After all, Chen Zhao would occasionally buy goods from them. Morocco had to stuff at least 2,000 pills in his butt. The match began. The 2 fighters in the ring were both death row convicts. When Chen Zhao heard their information, he wanted to kill the 2 death row criminals. The fight in the ring was very intense. They almost gave up on defense and used fierce attacks to hurt each other. To be honest, Chen Zhao had probably killed more people than everyone else here combined. However, Chen Zhao really couldn't see what was so interesting about this fist-to-flesh fight. The surrounding convicts, including Morocco, were all roaring hysterically, as if they were influenced by the fight in the ring. This match used the rule of 1 round to the end. There were no breaks in the middle. After 10 minutes of intense fighting, one of them fell to the ground, his face covered in blood. The winner raised his hands and roared at the people around him. Only Chen Zhao watched the match expressionlessly. The surrounding audience also cheered in unison. The winner looked around and suddenly saw Chen Zhao, who was facing everything coldly. The winner pointed at Chen Zhao with his gloves and made a provocative gesture. Everyone looked at Chen Zhao. What does he mean? Boss Chun, he's challenging you. Oh, so I can fight in the ring? Of course. Anyone is welcome to fight in the ring. Chen Zhao walked to the bottom of the ring and jumped onto it. The host introduced Chen Zhao cooperatively. He also told them about Chen Zhao's achievement of defeating 6 people this afternoon. Chapter 1250. Chen Zhao suddenly looked up because he smelled magic in the air. It was very faint, but it couldn't escape Chen Zhao's senses. Looking at the excited prisoners and prison guards around him, Chen Zhao was sure that someone was using magic here. He didn't know what the purpose was. Poof! Just as Chen Zhao was distracted, a fist punched his face. He didn't feel any pain, but to Chen Zhao, this was a great humiliation. Chen Zhao punched back and knocked the person to the ground. The scene quieted down immediately. No one expected the competition to end so suddenly. Chen Zhao looked around again, but didn't see anyone suspicious. Whatever, it had nothing to do with him. Chen Zhao couldn't be bothered to ask. Plus, he was a prisoner now. What right did he have to care who was doing what? At the moment, Imro and Lingam were on their way out of the city. Suddenly, Lingam's body trembled. That feeling came again. Again? Should we change direction? Imro was already used to it. We can't change direction. Lingam shook his head. There's still a lot of traffic in our direction, but there's clearly much less traffic going into the city. If we change direction, we might be discovered. Lingam analyzed. Let's keep going in this direction. Lingam, where are we going? If we keep being sensed by other people using magic like this, we'll be found sooner or later. It's okay, Lingam said. This time, the person's divination took half an hour. It means that he's starting to get tired. He was very confident in his analysis. He can't keep divining forever. As long as we leave L.A., it'll be hard for him to continue tracking us. If he divines again, we'll return to L.A., and the person chasing us will be tired of running. Lingam, do you know who's chasing us? No. Lingam had always been afraid of this. He didn't want to talk about it in front of Inro, because he was afraid that Inro would leave him, because he didn't know how to drive. This was the crux of the matter. If Inro were to separate from him, there would be no one to drive him. Then it would be very troublesome to change direction quickly. So Lingam didn't want Imro to know that the person chasing him was very powerful. But just as Lingam had feared, Inlor was behaving like this. He did not want to run around with Lingam. Lingam, don't you think we should split up and run? Are you sure he's only looking for me? It's possible that they're trying to capture both of us at the same time. I can sense their divination, but you can't. Perhaps you've already been divined many times before this. If I wasn't here, I'm afraid you'd have already fallen into their hands, Lingam said. Inro's expression changed slightly when he heard Lingam's words. Indeed, if Lingam wasn't around, they might have captured him. At the same time, the members of the Lightning Squad were patrolling the roads leading into and out of the city on Highway 122. If it was during the day, it would be hard to find him with the traffic in downtown Los Angeles. But at night, the traffic flow was relatively less. Therefore, it was very easy to find them on the roads leading into and out of the city. Klaus had found both Inro and Lingam's fingerprints at their residence. And Lingam's fingerprints were in the FBI's files. Lingam was also a repeat offender. But these files were all from before the age of 18. After the age of 18, Lingam had turned into a good young man with no criminal records. Through the bank's spending records, Klaus also found out that Lingam had bought a car not long ago. But Lingam didn't have a driver's license. That meant that Lingam had other accomplices. This information was obtained by West through the authority of the Anti-Terrorism Department. Zella, There's a car 5 kilometers ahead of you. It looks like the car we're tracking. Chase after it and take a look. Also, don't approach recklessly. We're not sure if the other party is an attack-type spiritualist or some other type. Don't take the risk. Okay, got it, Zella replied. Klaus had obtained the real-time monitoring authority of the highway system. He had been in charge of monitoring and commanding. There's a car behind us. Imro saw the headlights behind them. Lingam's expression changed slightly. Just then, his body once again felt the divination of his pursuer. Turn into the woods at the junction ahead. Imro immediately turned when he reached the junction, but they suspected that it was the car following them. So they also turned into the forest path. This time, they finally confirmed that the car behind them was really following them. What do we do now? Keep driving, Lingam said. We're running out of gas. Why didn't you say so earlier? Lingam grumbled. Do I even need to say it? We've been driving for 5 or 6 hours. Inro also had some complaints in his heart. He felt that this had nothing to do with him. It was all Lingam's trouble. Not long after, the car completely ran out of gas and stopped. Inro and Lingam immediately took out their pistols. Although they were both scammers, they always carried guns with them for self-defense. Zella, who was in the car behind, saw Inro and Lingam get out of the car in front, and the pistols in their hands. He instantly felt that it was ridiculous. They were actually using guns in front of him? If they were using magic, he might be afraid, but they were actually using guns. Gaia, where are you now? I've already found them. Their car seems to have run out of gas. They seem to be resisting, and have guns in their hands. Zella also had guns in his car, but he didn't plan to use them. After all, they were trying their best to capture them alive, not kill them. At this moment, Inro and Lingam were also unsure. They had almost never used guns. The two of them slowly approached Zella's car with guns raised. Get out of the car now. Now. Zella got out of the car. He raised his hands and smiled at Imro and Lingam. Who are you? Why are you following us? Zella looked at the two with calm eyes. Why are we following you? Well, you should know what you've done. I don't care who you are. Get on the ground now. Now hurry up. The two planned to snatch Zella's car and then leave. Unfortunately, Zella still stood there with his hands raised. I advise you to put down your guns. Chapter 1251. Don't waste time with him. Get in the car. Inro pushed Zella away. Zella didn't use any strength, and let Inro push him away. As soon as they got in the car, they realized that Zella had a gun. Not a small pistol like theirs, but a machine gun. Why isn't he fighting back? He's definitely out of bullets. Yes, for clips. The two looked at Zella, who was standing outside the car. Their expressions were a bit unnatural. But Zella's smile was very natural, and he kept smiling. Lingam suddenly got out of the car, and pointed his gun at Zella. Why aren't you fighting back? Kid, you obviously don't know what you're facing. Zella still had that smile, but his smile made Lingam's hair stand on end. Lingam, let's go. Don't waste time. Suddenly, the dark forest path was suddenly enveloped by a red light. Lingam and Imro looked up at the sky at the same time. Then they saw a ball of fire fall from the sky. Inro scrambled down from the car. Boom! The fire fell on the roof of the car. Zella took 2 steps back and fanned the heat. Lingam and Inro were hit by the heat and fell to the ground. They felt like their bodies were about to fall apart. When they turned around, they saw a tall woman standing on the roof of the car with flames all over her body. This woman was like the legendary goddess of war, looking down on all beings in the flames. Gaia, it took me a lot of effort to modify this car. Gaia shrugged. The landing failed. I've been practicing landing in human form recently, and couldn't do it accurately. Lingam stood up with difficulty and looked at Gaia in fear. He turned around and ran into the forest. Not chasing. He's running in the direction that Helith is coming from. I think we should stop him. Helith respects the chairman the most. Are you sure Helith won't kill this guy? Helith knows what she's doing. Imro twisted his butt and tried to sneak away. Suddenly, a greatsword fell in front of Inro. If you want to lose a limb, keep crawling. Gaia looked down at Inro. Extremely tragic screams came from the forest. Imro was startled. It was Lingam's voice. Then, he saw Lingam running away frantically. Imro saw the look on Lingam's face. It was obvious that he had encountered something even more terrifying in the woods. Not long after, Helios walked out of the forest. Gaia, can I kill him? If we kill him, Chen won't be able to come out. Alright, we'll wait for the guild leader to come out before we kill him. Harrow compromised. Who the hell are you people? How much do you want? I can give you however much you want. $100,000? No, $500,000. Boss Chen, you're amazing. The man you just beat up was a professional boxer before he went to prison. Professional boxer? Even if the boxing champion came, he would still be defeated. Is that guy famous? Boss Chen, don't you see the news? That guy is a very famous boxer. What crime did he commit to get in here? He raped his own daughter. Fuck, I should have killed him just now. That kind of scum. I hope he can meet White Nightmare. What White Nightmare? Chen Zhao asked curiously. Chen Zhao had seen nightmares before, but he had never heard of a White Nightmare. Norma had the bloodline of nightmares. She could turn her soul into a nightmare. I haven't seen it either, but in this prison, there is a legend about the White Nightmare nightmares. It is said that the White Nightmare nightmares will enter the prisoners' cells and kill them. Every time someone dies in the prison, someone will say that the White Nightmare nightmares did it. The last time I came here, someone died. A prisoner said that his roommate was killed by the White Nightmare nightmares. Every prison had all kinds of legends, but most of them were made up. When he was fighting in the ring, Chen Zhao had indeed felt magic. However, it wasn't strong and he didn't feel any evil aura. People often said that words were like the person. Some people could tell a person's state of mind and emotions from words. Relatively speaking, words couldn't completely tell a person's good or evil, but magic could. For example, Chen Zhao's magic was filled with violence and madness. Gaia's magic was scorching and determined. Heli's magic was obscure and impure. Alice had told Chen Zhao that some spiritualists would go to special places to practice magic. For example, prisons were often visited by people who practiced black magic. Practicing black magic didn't mean that they were evil. For example, Heli's was the representative of black magic. Her magic was impure, but it wasn't evil. Whatever, let's not talk about this. It's so uncomfortable to talk about this at night. After the lights went out, Chen Zhao heard Morocco mumbling. At the same time, an ethereal aura appeared. Chen Zhao turned his head and saw wisps of white gas seeping in from the crack of the door. The white gas gradually gathered into a white creature. The creature was as white as snow and had a cat's head. It wasn't tall, less than 80 centimeters, and it stood upright. It looked like a cat demon. The creature bounced lightly and stuck to the wall. Then it jumped to the ceiling and hung upside down. It walked a few steps upside down on the ceiling until it was above Morocco. Then it swooped down. The cat demon wasn't invisible. Morocco could feel it when it fell. Morocco opened his eyes and saw the cat demon on him. He opened his mouth, but he couldn't make a sound. He couldn't even move. The cat demon reached out with its claws and slowly grabbed Morocco's neck. Morocco wanted to struggle, but he couldn't move at all. It was as if a ghost was pressing down on him. His body tensed up. The cat demon was very small. It probably didn't weigh more than 20 kilograms. Normally, a creature of this size wouldn't be able to harm Morocco's body at all. Morocco was 1.8 meters tall, but he weighed 110 kilograms. He was more than 10 times the cat demon's weight. However, the cat demon's seemingly weak claws made it hard for him to breathe when it grabbed Morocco's neck. Help! Help me! Morocco turned his head with difficulty. He wanted to cry for help, to ask Chen Zhao for help. But his voice was very weak, and he had trouble breathing, like a drowning person. However, he saw that Chen Zhao seemed to be looking at him. Morocco couldn't make a sound. He could only move his mouth to ask for help. Suddenly, the cat demon realized that Chen Zhao was looking at it too. Hiss, the cat demon hissed at Chen Zhao. Chapter 1252. Chen Zhao thought that he'd been preparing for a long time, and could definitely capture it. Unexpectedly, the cat demon was also very fast. It leaped and dodged Chen Zhao's attack. At the same time, it reached out with its claws and scratched Chen Zhao's arm. But it didn't even break Chen Zhao's skin. Chen Zhao grabbed again, even faster this time. Seeing that it couldn't beat Chen Zhao, the cat leaped onto the ceiling and jumped to the door. Then it turned into white smoke and escaped through the crack. Whoosh! Morocco bounced up, fear written all over his face. Boss Chen, white nightmare, white nightmare. That's a white nightmare. It wants to kill me, it wants to kill me. Morocco was really frightened. He'd thought that he'd die for sure. If Chen Zhao hadn't chased the white nightmare away, he'd definitely be dead. Chen Zhao pursed his lips. He pinched Morocco's chin and looked at the mark on his neck. The mark wasn't deep, but it left a bruise. I won't die. Time to sleep. Chen Zhao lay back on the bed. Morocco couldn't sleep now. He pushed Chen Zhao. Boss Chen, don't sleep. What if the white nightmare comes again? You're disturbing my sleep. Do you want to die? Chen Zhao turned around and glared at Morocco. No. Boss Chen, what if the white nightmare comes to attack you? I'll kill whoever disturbs my sleep, whether it's you or it. Chen Zhao glared at Morocco. Fuck off. Don't disturb my sleep. Morocco wanted to cry. Chen Zhao was his only support. Chen Zhao was fearless, but Morocco, who'd just escaped from the gates of hell, didn't dare to close his eyes. He couldn't sleep for the entire night. He curled up in a corner of the bed, not daring to close his eyes. The next day after breakfast, it was time to relax. Morocco had completely become Chen Zhao's lackey. He followed Chen Zhao closely. He'd really been frightened last night. After a night of thinking, he felt that Chen Zhao wasn't a normal person. How could a normal person not be afraid in that situation? Yes, maybe Chen Zhao was an Eastern wizard. Maybe he'd come to the prison on purpose to capture the white nightmare. 013, someone's here to see you, the alarm said. 013 was Chen Zhao's number. Chen Zhao went to the visiting area. It wasn't the kind of place where people communicated through a glass. Instead, there was a table and 2 chairs facing each other. There were already a few prisoners in the visiting room. Chen Zhao saw David sitting in front of the table and walked over. Chen, did you know that Enro, who was supposed to be dead, surrendered to the police last night? He's not dead. No, and he's not injured at all. He's perfectly fine. He's already confessed. In order to frame you, he purposely hired someone who looks like you and staged that farce. However, he seems to be quite frightened. When can I go out? I'm working on the paperwork for you now. You'll be able to leave this afternoon. Can you slow it down a bit? Oh right, send Imro to this prison. Previously, Chen Zhao had been scheming to get out, but now that he could, he didn't want to leave so soon. Let me out tomorrow, Chen Zhao said. Don't kill anyone, David said. I don't want you to go to jail. Don't worry, I won't. After hearing David's news, Chen Zhao relaxed. However, West also told Fei Lai that he was going on a secret mission and would need 2 or 3 days. If he went back now, Fei Lai would be suspicious. Chen Zhao always reported only the good news to Fei Lai. After all, Fei Lai was pregnant now. Chen Zhao didn't want her emotions to fluctuate too much. Boss Chen, why are you so happy? When Morocco saw that Chen Zhao had returned from the visit, the gloom on his face seemed to have dissipated. His face was filled with sunshine. The asterisk shoal who framed me will be sent here in the afternoon. Chen Zhao's smile suddenly turned cruel. Someone dares to frame you, Boss Chen? Not before, but this time there really is. Suddenly, Morocco's expression turned very ugly. Boss Chen, are you going out soon? Yes, tomorrow. Morocco became anxious. Then, what if the white nightmare comes to find me again tonight? Chen Zhao glanced at Morocco. To be honest, in the past, Chen Zhao definitely wouldn't care about someone like Morocco. However, people's thinking would change when they were in a different environment. Chen Zhao now felt that Morocco wasn't that bad. You only robbed a few $100s. You'll only be locked up for a few days, right? I'll bail you out, Chen Zhao said. No. I also hurt someone. I'll probably be locked up for half a year, Morocco said with a sad face. Didn't you come here to deliver the goods? Why did you hurt someone? I robbed and hurt someone. Then a local leader found me and told me to deliver a batch of goods. Earn $10,000 and get locked up for half a year? I really don't know what you're thinking. Chen Zhao shook his head. Tell me, how much money do you need to bail you out? Probably more than $50,000. Chen Zhao thought for a moment and said, I can lend you money, but you have to return me the bail money after you go to court. For Chen Zhao and Morocco, this was a temporary prison. After being sentenced in court, they would most likely be transferred to another prison. America's crime rate had always been high. It also had the most prisoners in the world. There were more than 4 million prisoners, so there were also many prisons. There were more than 30 prisons in Los Angeles alone. Usually the bigger the city, the more people there were, and the more criminals there were. Of course, there were more prisons too. Unless Morocco's luck was extremely bad, he would not be assigned here again. Usually, the judicial system would randomly assign prisoners to prisons. Unless it was a military prison or a special prison, most prisons would be assigned to those with more empty rooms. Morocco had been to prison 6 times before. 2 of them had been to this prison. If his luck was really that bad, Chen Zhao couldn't do anything about it. Chen Zhao had already done his best to help him pay the bail money. If he came here again, Chen Zhao wouldn't go to prison to protect him. Also, the White Nightmare was hard to deal with. It wasn't that she was strong, but that she was slippery and hard to catch. Hey, that big guy over there. Come here. Chen Zhao saw the big guy he'd beaten up yesterday and waved. The big guy didn't dodge anymore. He ran to Chen Zhao's side. Boss Chen, what's up? Are there any gay men in your underlings? Boss Chen, do you like gay men? The big guy asked, surprised. Chapter 1253. The big guy immediately understood. He didn't have to say it out loud. Plus, it wasn't his first time taking on something like this. In prison, those with power would be respected. It was the law of the jungle in prison. Either they could fight like Chen Zhao. Either that, or he had a powerful background to begin with. Chen Zhao had only been in prison for less than 2 days. However, Chen Zhao had already gotten to know 2 people who were very influential in the outside world. Of course, they were both in the underworld. They weren't friends, but they still got to know each other. This was mutual respect. If you don't mess with me, I won't mess with you. Occasionally, when they were out, they would throw a cigarette over. Usually, the gangsters who came from the outside wouldn't bully newcomers like the big guy. They had their own enemies, which were usually the bosses of rival gangs. In this prison with a few hundred people, there were more than a dozen gangs. They were either allies or enemies, so they wouldn't offend others for no reason. There were also 2 or 3 gangsters who came to get close to Chen Zhao and ask about his background. Because of what happened last night, Imro was already scared out of his wits. He didn't expect the people who captured him to be Chen Zhao's subordinates. At first, he thought that Chen Zhao was rich, but Chen Zhao was a foreigner, so Chen Zhao wouldn't have any power. He didn't expect that none of Chen Zhao's subordinates were normal. All of them were as scary as demons. If he didn't give himself up, they'd eat him alive. Imro wanted to cry but had no tears. Sitting in the escort car, he was at a loss for what to do. After arriving at the prison, he went through the procedures and also had a physical and drug test. Imro was brought into the cell by the prison guard. Go in. You'll live in this room. Imro entered the room and saw the person he didn't want to see the most in his life. Why are you here? Why am I here? Chen Zhao found it funny. Why are you surprised? Why am I here? Morocco looked at Imro fiercely. Imro was the one who made a throat-cutting gesture. Mr. Chen, I'm sorry. It was my fault earlier. Please forgive me. Forgive you? Why should I forgive you? Chen Zhao sneered. If you want to use this method to make me spend 10 years in prison, then I'll make you die here. Imro was about to piss his pants. Chen Zhao was even more evil than he'd imagined. Even if you don't die in prison, I guarantee that you will die on the first day you walk out of prison. Chen Zhao really wanted to kill. He had seen all kinds of demons and ghosts, but this time, he almost fell into the hands of a swindler. How could he let the matter rest? Imro was so scared that his face turned pale. Take off your pants first. Morocco grinned at Imro. Imro subconsciously covered his butt. What are you doing? Imro's tragedy was only the beginning. Chen Zhao was very vengeful. At noon, Big Guy took the lead and came looking for trouble. In the face of a few burly men, Imro could only obediently endure. But at dinner time, the Big Guy came looking for trouble again. After that, they went to the bathhouse to take a shower. Inro's tragedy had only just begun. In the past, Chen Zhao hated things like rape. But he didn't have any sympathy for Inro at all. In the past, Inro specialized in cheating money from women. Moreover, it wasn't just a little bit of money, but all the money of others. He even made women owe huge sums of money, and then disappear from the world. Chen Zhao really couldn't feel sympathy for such a person. Chen Zhao watched as Inro covered his butt, and went back to his cell with a pained expression. He felt great. Morocco smiled knowingly, and also looked at Inro with evil intentions. But when the lights went out, Morocco couldn't smile anymore. It was another sleepless night. The next day, Morocco and Chen Zhao were released together. However, Chen Zhao was released without charge, while Morocco was released on bail. When he went to court, he still had to go to prison. After leaving the prison, Morocco looked at Chen Zhao. "Boss Chen, where are you going next?" "Someone's coming to pick me up. I'm leaving first. Remember, you have to pay me the bail money." Klaus' car was parked nearby. Morocco saw that Chen Zhao had a special car to pick him up, and the person who picked him up didn't look like an ordinary person. Although Morocco himself was an unemployed person, with a lot of criminal records, Morocco still had some foresight. He could tell that the person who picked Chen Zhao up was probably a retired soldier. And from their attitude, that person should be Chen Zhao's bodyguard. "Is Lingam in the headquarters now?" "Yes." Klaus nodded. "Good. Then let's go to the headquarters." Klaus saw Chen Zhao's murderous expression. It was better not to talk to Chen Zhao now. When they reached the headquarters, the members all stopped what they were doing, and came out to greet Chen Zhao when they heard that he was back. "Bring the asterisk shoal out." Lingam had already been dragged out by Klaus. Lingam was unharmed. It wasn't because the members of the association were soft-hearted. It was because Lingam was waiting for Chen Zhao's punishment. "Oh, it's you." Chen Zhao remembered that this man had bumped into his shoulder before entering the bar that day. Lingam's face was pale. If he knew that Chen Zhao had so many scary people under his control, he wouldn't have offended Chen Zhao. It was only $50,000. He had to face such a scary group of people for $50,000. Mr. Chen. How do you want to die?" Chen Zhao asked. Lingam's face turned even paler, and he trembled all over. Just then, dark clouds gathered in the sky above the headquarters. Everyone jumped in fright, and immediately backed away from Lingam. Lingam didn't know what had happened, but the dark clouds above the headquarters made him feel very pressured. The clouds started turning into thunderstorm clouds. Rumbling sounds rose and fell. "Choose. Be struck by lightning, eaten by demons, ground into pieces by a meat grinder, or I'll throw you into the sky." "No. I don't want to die. I don't want to die." "Don't want to die? That's not up to you." Chen Zhao stared coldly at Lingam. "Hurry up and decide. I can pledge my loyalty to you. I can do many things for you. I don't need it." Chen Zhao rejected Lingam's request without hesitation. Aye. Chen Zhao pointed at the sky. A bolt of lightning fell from the sky and hit his finger. You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support. And don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.